I feel like we should have more moon technology or some shit. You know what I'm saying? I think shit is like flying up from the ocean to the sky.
It's like surfing in some oil spillage. Inhaled like a whole bag of goose feathers.
I worry primarily about whether there are nightclubs in heaven.
La La Land. Oh yeah, just jumping straight into it. La La Land. That was a film.
Yeah, okay. So I have a story about La La Land.
Best picture winning film, La La Land.
This is what fucking. Okay, so before La La Land came out, the director made a film called Whiplash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I saw and thought it was okay. Mm-hmm. And like I posted on Facebook, and I'm like, I think that this movie's okay, and everybody fucking grilled me. You're like, you don't like Whiplash? It's the greatest movie of all time.
Are you saying you got whiplash over Whiplash?
Basically, yes. And so
it's hard to watch.
It's not even hard to watch. It's just like it's not even.
It's harder to watch for me because I'm a musician, and I've been in that student's place almost.
I just don't want J.K. Simmons to yell at me.
It's just like it's not. I mean, I guess like for a musician such as yourself, Ian, it could probably resonate with you. But for someone like me, I feel like that movie is just like a one-note gig. It's like
it's J.K. Simmons doing what all of us want to do to Miles Teller.
Yes, it's J.K. Simmons yelling at Miles Teller and beating him into being an okay musician. And either the moral of the film is either you're on board with it or not. And once you figure out where you lie in terms of the moral quandary, I think that the movie's not that interesting. Mm-hmm. I explained all that on Facebook, and they still, fucking...
Yeah, because everybody wants to start an argument on Facebook.
Yes, and they nailed me to a cross. So when La La Land came out, the trailer for La La Land came out, and I'm like, this looks kind of boring. Like, this looks kind of... I'm not really all that interested. And you're like, what do you expect?
Even before I saw it, it was like, okay, so this is a movie about Hollywood jerking itself off.
Yes, it feels like the most milquetoast, watered down, like uninspired musical ever. And then
we watched Singing in the Rain 10 times in a row, and now we just want to make a movie about the experience of watching Singing in the Rain.
And then like when people were championing it to win the best, and this is what really fucking weirded me out, is during the Best Picture Oscar race, there was a champion for like diversity and stuff like that. And so people were saying like diverse the categories, because I think last year there was like all white nominees and stuff like that.
Lots.
And so when it was considered the front runner for Best Picture, I went,
the movie
wait.
where Ryan Gosling saves jazz.
I'm like, wait, so we're championing a film about white people to win a race that we've all decided should be more diverse. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, that movie chronicles the important struggle of what happens when white people just like have kind of a hard time achieving their dreams.
Yes.
That's like real shit, dude.
It's like, and like, even like, and like, and like, even like the challenges in the movie are just like, oh, no one came to see my one woman show. Why would they?
I'm getting paid incredibly well to be in this incredibly successful band.
But it's not
God.
what I want. I want to be a musician.
Yeah,
I want to be a jazz
for 5
musician.
years, you fucker.
Yeah, it's a fucking mess of a film. And so I got painted, and so when I like said all this, I got painted as being like this like super like outspoken, like this super like going against the grain because it's punk, I guess, or like because it's cool. That's a callback.
Hating La La Land is punk.
Yeah, and so like
sounds right.
I got brand as like being like the Black Max Landers or something like that. So like it was like it kept following me to the point where now I'm just like I'm like off Facebook for now.
Well, I mean, now since you got branded as the Black Max Landis, now there's no more Max Landis.
Yeah,
so
now,
you can just swoop in and be regular Max Landis.
There's just me now.
Only minus all the stuff.
All the weird fucking sexual assault and all that shit.
Yeah, all the disastrous movies and the sexual assault allegations and just kind of being a dick.
Yeah, kind of being a dick and just So
this isn't exactly really, but I thought of it earlier. I wanted to bring it up while I remember. I kind of like float in the experimental music scene, and there's this artist called JPEG Mafia. His album is called Black Ben Carson.
Oh gosh.
Please tell me he like all of it is spoken word over music, and it's just him as Ben Carson.
It's like rapping over harsh noise. It's pretty tight. It's better than Death Grips, that's for sure.
I just really want to hear somebody rap as Ben Carson. Like, just sounding so sleepy and disinterested.
I just want to say, as a black person, watching Ben Carson get up on stage, it literally gave me, well, it didn't literally, but it might as well have given me cancer. Just the amount of just like sheer...
If it was brain cancer, I can help you out. I'm an accomplished surgeon, which is why I'm qualified to run housing and urban development.
And to make matters worse, they made a movie about him starring Cuba Gooding Jr. So
Wait,
if that's,
what?
So if that's not a fucking sign...
Wait a minute, is this out?
Yes.
Hold it. Tell me more.
It's a fucking... I think it's a Hallmark movie, which makes
Oh,
it... If
my
that's
God.
not a sign of how bad...
Cuba Gooding Jr., you won an Oscar.
The curse of Ben Carson is.
I mean,
it's called Gifted Hands,
that's
too.
where
so
the curse of Ben Carson and the curse of Cuba Gooding Jr. intersect.
I'm sure that, like, with the title called Gifted Hands, there has to be, like, a dozen porn parodies of it out there.
Was this made before or after 2016?
This was made before 2016.
Okay, so when he was, like, respectable
Yes,
for
when he
having
was-
been, like, this incredibly accomplished surgeon, and before he was the person.
But it's still, like, there's still something fishy when your biopic stars Cuba Gooding Jr., probably the worst
it's
actor.
made for TV.
And it's made for TV, Hallmark, probably...
He got an Oscar.
He got an Oscar
for shouting, "Show me
the money!
Show me the money!"
He's been riding
Here's an
that
Oscar.
train for 20 years. Can't we get him off it now?
I thought it was done when he did Snow Dogs.
I thought he was done after Jerry Maguire, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. He's
the
not...
only place that I saw a Ben Carson sticker was at a hospital, and that makes sense because it's like doctors supporting doctors.
Yes, but now it's just, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, gladly he stepped down, and like afterwards he's like, I don't even remember participating in the president. Motherfucker, there's footage of you on stage. He's like, that's not me. I don't even remember that.
That's a different Ben
A
Carson.
gifted brain surgeon has no memory.
How do you not
of
remember
like
that?
6 months of his life.
This guy operated on people's brains, and he's like, I don't even remember being up on stage.
I don't even
I was on
remember
horse tranquilizer, so you can't
I don't
blame me
even
for that.
remember that thing I was doing for 6 months of my life.
Gosh, Lee, like people should go back and recheck his patients to make sure like they're okay and their brains haven't combusted or imploded as a side
He
effect
probably
of his work.
didn't, but I wonder if like any of these terrible politicians got into politics on like a dare or a bet.
They probably
They said
did.
like somebody told them, "Oh, you can't do this." Well, fuck you, I'm going to do this.
I am like 99% certain that Paul Ryan's entire political career was like some sort of dare that he received from like his frat brothers in college, and like 10 years from now he's going to step down with dignity. He's going to go back as an alumni, and he's just going to be like, "Ha! Got you, motherfuckers! I told you I could do it.
I bet
I
Paul Ryan-
fucked all those poor people up real good."
I bet before the dare, Paul Ryan wanted to be like a jazz musician because his name sounds like a jazz musician, and now coming up on stage, Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan, and it's just like,
I swear. And some frat party where like Paul Ryan was like stone faced drunk. Someone said, "Paul, you should be a politician." He's like, "Fuck you, I will." And now he's
bitch. Watch me.
Have we introduced our guest at all?
What if he's been drunk this whole time from that party onward, and now he comes back to
What
the
if
party?
this
He's
is
like,
like-
I told you. They've all been waiting there this whole time.
I feel like this is his equivalent of the walk of shame now, where like he got into it because he's like, this is gonna be the best practical joke ever, and now he's like, holy fuck, I'm sitting in shit now with this
Poor
administration.
people would actually kill me if they got the chance. Anyway, about 10 minutes in is probably the best time to introduce our guest.
This was my master plan all along.
CJ. How's it going?
Hola, ¿cómo estás? And that's all the Spanish I know. So
Muy bien.
Donde está la
you're speaking.
biblioteca?
You might as well be speaking French to me now. So
¿Dónde está el baño?
99 Luftballons go by.
yes.
Me gusta guacamole.
This is a recurring gag now. It's just random Spanish phrases that we're going to be saying.
Andale, andale.
Andale, yes.
Rapido. Speed it up.
Rapido, speed it up, yeah. So, should I say, like, what I do, or, like...
Yeah.
Oh.
Give us the works, man. You're here to plug yourself. Do whatever you want.
Hola, my name is...
You don't have to do it in Spanish.
It's CJ.
Me amo.
Me amo, yeah. See, I told you.
Me amo la CJ.
I know Jack from high school and from middle school too, right?
Yeah, mostly middle school.
Yeah, mostly middle school. Briefly in high school when we engaged.
Yeah, we ended up going to two different high schools that were near each other.
Yeah. No, I think we went to the same. Oh no, right. You
Yeah.
went to international, didn't you?
No, I went to Media Arts.
Same. Me too. I also went to media arts. Remember ninth grade?
I was at international.
We were
I don't know if we knew each other.
We were at Middle Media Arts together.
and then we went to high media arts.
Dude, we were in different classes.
We
That's
were
what it was.
probably no. I think we were in on different classes, but we were on the same team. It was the Chris and Diane. Diane. Yeah. Anyway, that's how I know Jack, and I know Ian because he's cool.
Yep.
I know Jack because he's my brother.
Yes,
And also cool. You can just say that.
and cool. I guess I could plug my status in career, which
Please
is
do.
I have none. I'm a aspiring screenwriter who hasn't written a word. So
Yeah,
far,
man.
my career is off to a good start, I think.
Woo.
So it's all
Microsoft
up here
Word,
from here.
the word "the" for 3 hours.
Writing
No,
terrifies me.
it's like that episode of SpongeBob where he's writing the essay.
Yes, and it's
like,
just-
and it's like, and some of these, and some of these.
He brings out a fucking chisel and he's just
The
yeah. That's basically me. Yeah, writing terrifies me. Like the idea,
is, yeah.
it's like writers have to be like some of the most. I mean, writers are the most insecure people probably, other than maybe musicians.
Yeah.
And that's
Musicians get pretty bad. I can say that.
and like it's so depressing, like staring at the blank page and feeling all this pressure of like and expectations of no one but yourself.
Oh yeah. You're the only one who's
You're
putting
the only
this
one
stuff on
who-
you. I know that all too well.
And you're like, fuck, if this isn't like Academy Award winning writing, I'm gonna shoot myself and jump off a bridge at the same time.
I think the one thing that's like definitely helped to some extent taking like the pressure off when I started a writing project is like learning to love like schlock and bad movies.
Yes.
Like, and just being like, I could make something like this and I'd be perfectly happy with myself.
Yeah, like if I made
I want to do like more prestigious stuff, but if I make that, then I'm cool with that.
yeah, I mean,
If I make Deathbed the bed that eats people, I'll be like, you know what? I can hang my hat.
I think
and just
I'm
be like,
good.
yeah.
I think I'm good. It'll probably
I
find a
made
cult
it.
status, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, I made it. Somebody will do a stand-up routine about this movie, and I'll just be able to hang up my hat and just be like, I did my part.
And
for
I'll be able to
society.
watch that on Netflix and be like, I wrote that movie. That's what he's doing his stand-up on.
Making music is a little bit of a different experience. So, like, recording a full album can be a little daunting, especially if you go to like an expensive studio. But just writing music altogether isn't that bad. What'll happen is like most people are creative enough to write a song if they've already learned an instrument. What will be the worst is when you get criticism for said song. That's worse than like writing in the first place.
I feel like being a musician is like even more harder than writing, because like not only are you having to like write songs and have like them rhyme and have them make sense, but you also have to write notes and like choreograph a chorus.
and then you have to time it all out.
And you have
so
to
it
time
works.
it all out, and it takes like math, which I'm not good at. It takes writing
fuck that,
skills, and it takes precision and rhythm. And
I'm good at math, and I use like odd time signatures, so it'll be a beat of like 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 instead of 1 2 3 4.
And yeah, like it's such a freaking like it's such a mind blowing gift to be able to just like sit down. I mean, like that's why I think like Prince is like a genius.
Oh yeah, dude.
To be able to just like sit down and write Purple Rain on like a Tuesday.
And like the kind of mastery he had where he could literally just like pick up a new instrument and have it mastered by the weekend.
Oh, yeah, and just like
Yeah, there it is.
There's the
he has just
elusive-
revealed his pride and joy, his original print of Purple Rain
first
by Prince.
vinyl
Oh
print.
my god, it's
of Purple
gorgeous.
Rain.
Yeah, it's great.
It's got like 3 different design schemes to it. Like between the sleeve and then the other sleeve that goes inside it, there's like 3 different design schemes going on.
There are literally angel wings and a halo.
Yeah,
that is.
there's like the iconic picture of Prince, in the alleyway on the purple motorcycle, and then like there's also like old fashioned like vintage wallpaper on the edges and on the back, and then the sleeve inside of that has like this stylized drawing of like a woman's face, and also the wallpaper. So it's like there's so many different fucking designs going on already, and it's just ridiculous.
And
I love it.
there's a rumor that if you play that on an old record, Prince might come back to life, smash through the record, and play the song that you're listening to for you himself.
Yeah, but it's only one use because he breaks the record.
Yeah,
My
he breaks-
favorite Prince quote was he said, the internet is a fad. I'm not on there.
The internet is a fad. I'm not on there.
So speaking of Prince, did you guys ever see the story that Kemet Smith said about his experience with Prince?
I have not.
So there is this stand up that like way back in the early 2000s. Kevin Smith would do the show called like A Night with Kevin Smith.
Yeah, that was
like,
the one where he talked about like the shit show behind the scenes of like the Superman movie that never happened.
So apparently, and I'm probably gonna butcher this story, but apparently Prince came to him as a big fan of his film Dogma.
Huh.
And
Dogma is a really good movie. I like that movie.
And so Prince had saw Dogma and had like what Kevin Smith described as like a religious experience with Dogma.
Prince was like really religious.
He was
right?
really deep into
So like having really enjoying that movie that like pokes fun at religion a lot.
It's really cathartic and weird.
Yeah, it's cool though. Prince was a cool dude.
And so he called up, and so So Prince told his agent to call Kevin Smith, and so Kevin Smith got a phone call from his from Prince's agent, and it's like, so Prince is going to call you in like 10 minutes. And so Kevin Smith told his family, do not answer, do not go near the phone, whatever you do.
Just sitting by the phone like,
Prince is going to call.
Okay. Prince is
so
gonna call me.
20 minutes later, the agent calls back again. It's like, okay, Prince is going to call you in 15 minutes. Because it's like, oh my God, it's Prince. 30 minutes later goes by, and the agent calls. So automatically, you're kind of like, is this a prank call? Is Prince really going to call? Is this just some asshole fan? So Prince finally calls, and it's like, Kevin, I love Dogma. I want to know if you want to do a documentary about some concerts and sort of tied into like religious themes and stuff. And Kevin Smith is like, I wrote Dogma when I was like high, in college. Like, I have no idea what that movie's even about. So he's like, sure, I'll go to Prince's mansion and do a documentary. Apparently Prince is one of the most weirdest people in the fucking planet.
Everybody who's gone to Prince's house has a stand-up story about it. Chappelle had his.
Yeah, Chappelle.
And now
had,
Kevin Smith has one.
Apparently, when Kevin Smith got there, the assistant told him stories about how Prince would wake up at like 3:00 in the morning, call his assistants and ask them if they could go and get him a camel. And so the assistant is like, Prince, we can't get you a camel. And Prince is like, why not?
I can't imagine Prince losing his temper. I can just imagine him being like, I want a camel.
Yeah.
Go get me a camel.
Why can't I have a camel? And the assistant's like, Prince, we can't just go out and get you a camel at 3:00 in the morning.
But I want a camel.
Apparently, the project went nowhere, classically.
Yeah. I know it's not out there for us to see.
But you come away, but like, if in that case, I'd come away with like the experience of, I got to hang out with Prince for like a week and experience and bask in his glory.
That's enough. The movie did not have to come out of this, but now I'm just imagining like the first time they actually met in person, and like Prince is wearing like some sort of like lavish suit with like a cravat. And like his hair all done up, and like the super fine pencil mustache,
and there's smoke screen behind him.
Kevin Smith just arrives in like a hockey jersey and some giant jean shorts
and a large over trench coat, and is just like, "Hi, Prince." Like, I could totally picture that.
Prince. We're on Fat Man on Batman.
We're on Fat Man on Batman. Yeah.
Just the biggest jorts.
But like, Prince is like, I fucking miss Prince, because like Prince is a genius in like every sense of the word. Just to like be able to crank out like what 200 albums in like the span of like a decade,
crazy amount of work,
and like they're all pretty damn good.
Yeah,
like I can't think of like a bad Prince album.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to all of them, but like I can't think of like a bad Prince album. And his songs are so like quotable and
dearly beloved.
We are gathered here to get through this thing called life. And like,
that's your word, life. It means forever. That's a mighty long time. Which that's not what life means, but I believe it because Prince is saying.
He's a really good guitarist too.
Life means a fleetingly short amount of time. In fact, but I believe you. Prince.
Once you hear that opening salvo in that song, you feel like this sense of like uplifting and like transcendence.
Oh my God! Transcendent really is the right word for it. It's
crazy. Just I got into a debate with my family members over who is the better artist, Prince or Michael Jackson.
Prince.
And I think Prince is more versatile. I think Michael had like 3 good albums, which was Thriller, Off the Wall, and a third album which I cannot name actually. But like Prince's music, I think sticks better and holds more water and like is more smart.
There's just more of it.
Yeah, and there's
Like,
just
yeah.
much more to unpack with Prince because he's such a complicated character.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I really loved about Prince. Not just like the quality and quantity of the work that he did over his lifetime, but just the fact that he was such a character.
Yeah, he's such a and I was talking to a friend about this. If I were to ever like model, like if DC Comics were to like ever come to me out of nowhere and say, would you write a Batman story? My first like instinct would be to model the Joker off of Prince, because like just that look of like those lavish clothes,
and just like
and that
being
weird.
being so effortlessly extra.
Yes, being so toned down and so effortlessly extra.
Like,
yes,
yeah, it's effortless because he doesn't like act big. He just
yeah. And
stylistically, he's a very big personality, but he's just very subdued in like his
the
mannerisms.
definition of loud and flamboyant in the most
chill, laid back
chill,
way.
calm way.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
Like, his style is loud for him, and then he's just like, "Hello, I'm Prince."
Hello, I'm Prince. Yes,
Like
I'm gonna sing a
everybody
song.
who's ever brushed up against Prince has some kind of crazy story about Prince, even like just a funny quote. Like I remember right after he died, Matt Damon talked about an interaction that he had, and it's like, yeah, he was just making small talks, like, "Oh yeah, I heard you live in Wisconsin. You live in Wisconsin?" And he just says, "I live inside my own heart, Matt Damon." Just like,
what do you say to that? Like, how do you reply to that?
you don't say anything to that. Conversation done. Walk away with the fact that Prince said that to
Prince
you.
looked in
That
your
is
general
all you're going to
direction
get out of the night,
and spoke
that's
to
enough.
you. That's it. Like, yeah, to just be in the presence of like Prince and
What a fucking line.
like, yeah, like I live inside my own heart. Like you stitch that on your underwear and you wear that proudly.
Oh yeah,
that's what you do after that,
dude. You stitch that on your sleeve. You have a patch made and you put it on a jacket.
You get a tattoo of that across your chest hair.
You put it right where your heart is.
You put it right where your heart is.
Yeah, I live inside my own heart, Matt Damon. The whole line, even the part where he says Matt Damon. I'm just gonna have that tattooed over my heart.
That'd be a cool pickup line too. Just like.
So where do you live?
I live inside my own heart.
I live inside my own heart.
Instant laid, probably.
Boom, close off, out in the open.
Instant laid, probably.
Doesn't Prince speak Spanish too?
Does he?
Didn't he?
Didn't he?
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, he's such a versatile guy. I think that the like artists and musicians that we have now are great. I think like Childish Gambino might possibly be this generation's Prince.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like even if he isn't just like on the merit of his music, like Donald Glover, Childish Gambino is like kind of becoming a Renaissance man.
He's a fucking genius.
Yeah, he's been like a writer, an actor, a comedian.
Exactly.
Hasn't he directed episodes of
Yeah,
Atlanta?
well, I think
so
yes.
like that and like the rap. So yeah, that's
the guy
definitely
won a
like
fucking
Renaissance
Emmy
man status.
for directing what I thought was like the best episode of television that year.
Yeah.
Like chart out the career of this guy.
Yeah.
He started YouTube sketches when like in college dorms just dicking around. And it was so early in the YouTube spheres that people
It's not
actually
about
thought that
this
they
video
were
game.
real.
It's a dick.
And like people actually thought that shit was real. Like
Yeah.
that's how insane an infant that was.
Yeah, but like all the shit that he has on his resume at this point, like that is like Renaissance man status.
He's like barely
got so much shit he can
35
do.
and he's been directed by Ridley Scott, Ron Howard, and he's in a fucking Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's gonna be young Lando.
He's gonna be Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
After he just won an
yeah,
Emmy,
man.
he's gonna be Lando Calrissian in a Star Wars
like,
movie.
He's just on an upward trajectory.
He fucking he created this whole like YouTube sketch comedy. After that, he wrote for Jon Stewart and he wrote for Tina Fey.
Huh.
And then while he was doing all that, he was killing it on Community. It was probably the best character on that show.
Oh,
so
yeah,
much
he
so
was
that
great.
when he left, the show kind of tanked.
And then it went on Hulu and just petered
And then
out.
it went on Hulu and petered out. And now he's creating Atlanta, which I think is like, which the first
Atlanta
season
rules.
It's like I think Atlanta is the first season is literally like not
Price
since,
is on the can though.
not since Lost has there been a first season that is just such perfect television. I think.
Hopefully it doesn't go the trajectory of Lost.
I hope not. Apparently, he said that the second season is inspired by Tiny Toons.
Yeah.
which I said, fucking A, yes.
Holy shit!
I want that now.
Yeah, like it doesn't have all the fucking J.J. Abrams mystery box bullshit, so it's probably not gonna like disappoint the
Hopefully
way that
not.
Lost did.
Parallel, I thought of just now with Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, is Steve Martin. Steve Martin is a really talented banjo player and did great in comedy.
Yeah.
Donald
Yeah.
Glover has like had a bigger music career than Steve Martin, though.
It's insane how
Like, Steve
versatile.
Martin's done like musicals and stuff. Like he like wrote a musical with
Yeah,
somebody
he
else.
can do everything pretty much.
Yeah, like Terry Crews is another one. Like
Terry Crews is
There's
another
so
one.
much shit that he does that like I didn't even know about. Like he makes designer furniture.
Really?
Yeah, he has.
Holy
he-
fuck!
he-
Terry Crews of all people.
He has his own line of designer furniture. He used to be a football player. He used to play for the fucking Chargers for a while.
That's kind of badass.
He's a painter. He's like a really good artist. He's an actor and he's a funny motherfucker. He's a bodybuilder. He can do fucking anything.
Yeah, there's so many people who are like versatile. But like, you know, I think there's something special about people like Prince and like James Brown and like the Rolling Stones who are these like once in like a generation boomers that just come on the stage and change everything.
Yeah.
It's sort of
Stevie Nicks and
yeah. It's sort of like the Star Wars effect. We're like it's this thing that like nobody knew was going to be a huge hit.
Yeah, everybody, including the people working on the original Star Wars, all thought that it was just going to be like a shitty B movie that would just like, you know, make its money back and then just like fade away. And then holy shit,
so much so that like Fox had to beg theaters to take it because apparently they were. The story goes is that Fox was sending out Star Wars with a package deal with this other film that people thought was going to be like a Best Picture contender,
and it wasn't.
And now, like Star Wars was the Best Picture contender for that year.
Yeah,
it's a fucking
and
amazing.
I remember like a story from Mark Hamill, like shortly after Star Wars came out, and like they were flying in somewhere for something. It's like it was him, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher on a plane together, and like they were coming down onto the tarmac, and there was just like this huge crowd of people with like signs, like they were just a bunch of fans, and he was like, "Holy shit, guys! There's a bunch of people down there." And like he could even see the signs at that point, and was like, "I wonder what they're here for."
Can you imagine?
He couldn't conceive of that.
Can you imagine being that type of artist or like being that type of musician where like this shitty thing that you did for fun or for kicks just to get out becomes this huge fucking culture phenomenon that is forever imprinted in the culture zeitgeist.
Yeah,
like after that,
I think about it a lot, and then and
and
then I wake up,
and then I drink a bottle of scotch and drown myself in my pool.
Not at the same scale, but I've had albums that do well and were extremely low effort versus like albums I put so much heart and soul into and nobody cares about.
It's crazy,
it's weird how that works out. That like the shit that you don't really think about ends up becoming the biggest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
And the shit that you meticulously plan out and like want to
You
be
can
huge
overwork something like I'm always
flops
conscious of
like
that.
shit. It's
Dude,
weird the way that works.
Yeah, I've like for over 2 years now, I've been busting my ass making my webcomic, especially now that I work full time and I got to like figure out time to write and draw it on top of that.
It's a great comic, by the way.
Thank you. But I feel like I'm getting to the point where it's like I'm going to have to start paying people to read it. But like I check in on my old DeviantArt account every now and then that I haven't even updated in like 3 years, and I'm still getting like favorites and stuff on some shitty Metroid fan art that I did like 10 years ago.
It's insane.
I'm still like that's in the thousands now, and I like 12 people read my webcomic.
There's a photo of you at Comic-Con that like did pretty well on somebody's Flickr. I found you.
Really?
Yeah.
You're on Flickr, Jack. You're famous.
Yay, I'm on Flickr.
Some costume you did. It was probably Watchmen related.
Oh yeah. I know the one. Yeah, that actually got some. I actually found that like a year after, and it got some pretty cool response. Is it still around?
I don't know if I'd be able to find it. I don't have it bookmarked. I'm sure it's still up though.
Yeah, but like
most
just
people on Flickr leave their photos up.
Yeah, just that it's like making the rounds still is pretty cool. But like
Speaking of Watchmen, I have never properly thanked you and Eric for the most awkward experience I've ever had in a theater with my mom ever. So
with the sex scene.
So Watchmen came out. Watchmen came out when me and Jack were in a seventh grade, and apparently Jack and Eric had like read the graphic novel, and I had no idea. I saw the trailer when it came out for The Dark Knight, and so when I had saw the trailer, I didn't know what to make of it because it's like Rorschach with a freaking spray can and match, and there's people smashing walls and comedians there, and you think that
it's all very Zack Snyder-y.
and Dr. Manhattan's exploding people up. So I come to Jack and Eric, and I'm like, what is this Watchmen comic? And they tell me all about it, and I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I beg my mom to go see it. She's like, it looks stupid. It's just I think The Dark Knight had came out the year before, and she was already burnt out by how like The Dark Knight was like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So we're
Watchmen
watching.
is also not a short movie.
No, it's not. Thank you, Zack Snyder, for that. So
Have you seen the director's cut? It's longer.
I've seen the director's cut, and it doesn't really add anything. It's just more.
It adds the one scene of like Hollis Mason being killed.
Oh yes, yes.
And that's a pretty dope scene.
Sure.
I gotta
Yeah.
admit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then so we're watching Watchmen, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just like
watches
numb
the
to
Watchmen?
it. Yes. Who watch exactly?
Yeah, that phrase is fucking everywhere in the comic and in the movie.
And so I'm sitting there watching it. I'm kind of numb to it. And then Hallelujah comes on.
Oh,
and
boy.
Zack Snyder's not a master of subtlety.
Oh, dude, the music choices in that movie
He's
are
not a
fucking
master
ridiculous.
of subtlety. And like they're just weird music choices too. So
Yeah, like fucking 99 Loof Balloons is in there.
Sound of Silence comes on for the
Sa-
comedian's funeral. And you're
Oh
like,
my
what the
God, it's
fuck
so
is this?
much. It's-
What is this?
Yeah, it's a
Ozzy Mandaz pops up on screen and they're playing Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, Zack Snyder,
I
relax.
never saw the
along the
director's
Watchtower?
cut, but I never saw the director's cut. Was the alien monster?
No,
No.
In that one?
They stuck with the version where it's Dr. Manhattan.
It's
which
Dr. Manhattan.
honestly, like if you
If you think about it makes sense, but then it
makes
kind of
more
doesn't
sense.
make sense
Yeah.
on some level.
Yeah,
but it
like-
does make sense in the context of like,
Yeah, it
sure.
makes sense
It
for
makes-
being a newer
It
movie.
makes,
Yeah.
it makes more sense in like an A to B plot point sort
Yes.
of way. But like Watchmen as a graphic novel was deconstruction.
Yes.
It was deconstruction, and like having the fucking alien monster out of nowhere was like taking like all this imagery and iconography of like Silver Age, like pulpy sci-fi stories, and turning it into hell on earth horror. And it's like, so that was like what they were trying to do with that kind of turn in the comic. And it's like, you know, I kind of get why they left it out for the movie, but it was like a continuation of like the themes of like deconstructing
Exactly.
all this stuff and saying like, hey, if all this fantastical stuff from all these old pulpy comics was real, it would be horrible.
Right. And so I have a fun fact about the squid monster in Watchmen, but so I'm watching the Watchmen movie with my mom, and the song Hallelujah comes on.
Oh, boy.
And,
Yeah.
And the sex scene starts, and the overt thrusting of Patrick Wilson
And then-
appears on screen.
And then, like, right at the moment,
Well,
they accidentally hit the button,
and
and
she
like,
climbed-
the fire comes out. Hallelujah.
and my mom turns to me. She's like, "Why did you take me to go see this? This movie's fucking disgusting." And I'm like, "I had no idea. I didn't know. I didn't see that." But so the squid monster. So apparently, when Moore was writing that novel, the person who was in charge of overseeing his comic book was Len Wein, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And when Moore sent him the final script of the Squid Monster, Len Wein read it. It's like, "Hey, Alan Moore, did you know that this ending is from a Twilight Zone episode?" And he's like, "Oh, really? Huh. Well, that's kind of cool." And so I guess they got into this whole philosophical debate about how Len Wein was like, "No, you idiot, you have to change the ending, because if you make it like the Twilight Zone episode, it's not going to have any much impact, and you got a chance to do something new and yada yada yada." And so like Moore was just like, "But I like the squid ending." And
Yeah.
Len was like, "No, change it. It's, you know,
I mean, like,
people are going to compare it unfairly." He's like, "But I like the squid ending."
Yeah, the squid really isn't like it is where like the plot ends, but it isn't really like the most interesting part of the ending. The most interesting part is like how the characters react and deal with it.
and
So it's like it really isn't that big of a deal.
It
Like,
doesn't make or break.
Yeah, which is why I wasn't really that bent out of shape when they took the squid out. Like, I understand, like, you know, why it was, you know, a problem, like, thematically, but like, you know, it's really not the most important part of the ending.
That being
it's window dressing.
That being said, I don't like the Watchmen film. I think it's hollow. I think it's
Yeah.
very
I agree with
hollow.
you.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't have the
tries-
it doesn't have the emotional impact that Zack Snyder wants it to.
It, like, somebody was like doing, I don't even remember where it was from. It was like an article or a video essay or something, but somebody was doing like a breakdown of like Zack Snyder's work, and like they were mentioning the fact that and I even like saw him in a panel at Comic-Con years and years ago, like in person, and he was talking about this stuff. But like there's all these quotes from him about how like original superhero comics as a kid never really interested him, and he didn't read like those comics as a kid. But what he read, like, because his mom didn't know any better, she would just buy him copies of heavy metal.
Yeah,
which is like a very, like, you know, out there,
Yes.
very raunchy and
Yes.
lurid indie comic series that, like, it's an anthology, and they do like all kinds of crazy, like, tits out, pulpy violence.
Yeah.
And so that was his cultural like frame of reference as a kid for comic books. And you can definitely see that in his work.
Not the best.
But the thing is, like, when you hand him something like Watchmen, which is a deconstruction of all of those, like, very wholesome golden and silver age comic books, he doesn't, like, from a very, like, childhood perspective, he doesn't have the frame of reference that most people would reading that piece of work. So he just sees the fucking killing.
Exactly.
Like, oh God, this is awesome. I want to.
I don't think
Zack
Snyder is a film, and like I truly think that Zack Snyder. I mean, he's made a good movie, which was his remake of Dawn of the Dead. I love that movie.
I think he's a great filmmaker. He just makes bad movies.
I think he has a great film in him. I don't think he understands. I think he's smart, but I don't think he's intelligent.
Yeah, he has the entire wrong frame of reference for adapting Watchmen or Batman versus Superman, which is also trying to be deconstructionist of Superman and Batman.
It's weird how someone had said this online or on YouTube or something like that. It's like, you don't give the guy that made Watchmen Superman.
Yeah.
Because that kind of defeats the whole point, is because that guy is going to come in with Superman with the idea of, I'm going to deconstruct Superman, make him interesting.
Yeah.
And deconstructing Superman makes him less interesting.
Yeah, but even then, like, between Watchmen and Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel, I feel like if you're going to make good deconstruction, then you have to, like, have the thing that you're deconstructing in your bones.
You have to love it first.
You have to love what you're deconstructing and fully understand it. And he didn't absorb it like at the time that anybody else would have. So he doesn't. I really don't think that he has like the cultural frame of reference. He could make like a really kick-ass heavy metal style movie, and he made Sucker Punch, which I still haven't seen, but I heard that was good.
I've seen.
I heard that was good
in
the way that Zack Snyder can be good.
It's bad, but like I feel like Zack Snyder. Well, first off, I think Zack Snyder doesn't fundamentally buy comic book movies because there was a quote that he said in regards to Batman v Superman, and someone had asked him, it's so long in the movie before Batman and Superman, meet up, and when they do, it's just the fight scene. And why is that?
Like, there's really nothing going on between those characters, even though they try to make it seem like there is.
Yeah.
Like, any like really great iconic fight scene doesn't just have good choreography or good framing or anything like that. It has emotional content.
Yes, and
like,
so
the best, like, even though it probably doesn't have the flashiest choreography, I will still stake my claim. The very best like lightsaber duel in all of Star Wars is Luke and Vader in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, because it's clunky, it's raw, it's
clunky,
it's real.
They're both hitting each other.
There's emotional stakes.
Yeah, like Luke is just getting smacked around. But there's like so much emotional content to it, and like there's entire parts where the music falls out, and you're just watching these two guys wail on each other,
and they're just wailing each other.
And like, Vader knows something that Luke doesn't, or otherwise he would have just knocked the saber out of his hand and cut his head off.
I don't think Zack Snyder can do that, because there was a quote. Well, so someone had asked him, why is it that in Batman v Superman it's like an hour and 30 minutes until Batman and Superman actually fight? And Zack Snyder made this statement. He said, well, when I first came up with the idea, the first film I went to was Heat. And so I said that I wanted to have that famous scene in Heat where it's Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in the coffee shop talking.
Yeah, so then just like, Young Justice literally did that in an episode where it's Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne at a diner.
So he said that he wanted to do that. And this is where, and the next thing that he said made me realize, you don't understand comic books at all. Yeah. He said that the reason why he didn't have that scene is because he thought that the audience would think that it was silly, because halfway through their dialogue, you'd go, this is a man in a Batman costume, and this is a man with a S shield on his chest, and they're talking, and it looks silly. That's why we go to see the fucking movie.
Yeah, the point is, who cares? We're already bought into that.
And like, go and watch Daredevil season 2, where it's Daredevil and Punisher on the roof, and they're having that exact same conversation,
and one of them's dressed like the devil.
And one of us just like the devil.
And it works.
And it works. And it's real. Go back to the interrogation scene in The Dark Knight.
You don't flinch from it. You don't dance at arm's length. You just go balls deep.
Exactly.
And everybody's like, okay.
I buy it. And like go back to The Dark Knight where like it's Batman and the Joker and it's a guy dressed up as a bat and a guy dressed up in clown makeup sitting in the police. That's the dumbest shit ever. But when you watch that movie, it's real and you're fucking into it and the dialogue is great. You can't go into a Superman and Batman movie and go, it's kind of silly that they would stand and talk.
It is. Power through it and make a good movie. But like, I feel like Zack Snyder, like, technically, like, every once in a while, like, he'll make like some visual decisions that make me feel kind of nauseous. But like overall, I do think that like on a technical level, he's a great director. He just has a tendency to make bad movies. He needs to be like paired with somebody.
Yes, he does.
Like the Wachowskis. Like Ian, you've seen Sense8. Like,
yeah, most of it.
Yeah, you've seen some of Sense8. I fucking love Sense8. And I love the Wachowskis, but they've they've just gone crazy with some movies and just like completely lost their shit. And like when they did Sense8, they had J. Michael Straczynski like running things like
to like rein them in and go, wait a minute, guys, not everybody's gonna get this.
Hold on, I made Babylon 5. I know what's up.
Yeah,
we gotta have structure here. And so like that pairing was perfect because like it's the Wachowskis like big ideas, and then it's J. Michael Straczynski's ability to like make big ideas into something structured and meaningful. So it's like, that is a perfect pairing. Zack Snyder needs a pairing like that. And David Goyer is definitely not that person.
David Goyer is not that person. I mean,
he's not that person for anybody.
I like David Goyer, but I think, like with and like, that's why I was kind of holding out hope for Batman v Superman because they paired him up with the screenwriter of it's this guy named Chris Terrio who wrote.
Yeah, he did Argo.
Which I thought, okay, give him, have him tell Zack Snyder, wait a minute, Zack Snyder, let's not do this. And then you go see Batman and you go, oh, they might have been both on the same page of, it's just big ideas, and no substance.
It's trying to be like all crescendos and no build up.
Yes.
It's a wall of noise. That movie is a wall of noise.
It's a pretend. I hastily use this word, but it's a pretentious superhero movie, and I never thought I'd say that. I never thought I'd say a superhero movie is pretentious.
Like I'm sure Chris Terrio, like Argo was a great movie, so I'm sure he's a talented writer, but it's not just about being a talented writer. You have to have like the right frame of reference if you're doing something like this. So if you're a great writer but you don't fucking get the characters or the appeal of this,
it's just going to fall flat.
It's going to fall flat because you need to be able to like get what's going on.
Yeah, you have to understand where the characters are coming from in order to do something new and to change up the status quo. Yeah. You can't just jump in and going, oh, I'm going to change up the status quo and do something new when that's not the way that works. And the problem of Zack Snyder, I think, is a problem with like these director driven artists as a whole in Hollywood, and it's kind of why I don't like the MCU is because they've gotten to the point where they've become so big that now they have this sort of mentality of we can do whatever we want and people will still come and see our movie.
They like for a while now they've had a
since Guardians
a
I think
mindset of like director for hire.
Yes,
like they've only had like a couple movies where they really just like let the director do what he wanted. They've had like Joss Whedon with the first Avengers movie, not the second one. Like shit went kind of off the rails with the second one. And then they've had Taika Waititi, with Thor Ragnarok. They gave him total auteur status. He just did whatever the fuck he wanted, and it worked out.
I have problems with Thor Ragnarok, and like it's a problem that I have with most of the MCU movies, and this ties back into Zack Snyder. Is there is an inherent fear of people taking comic books seriously.
Yeah, I get that. And like when I was like seeing like the press for Thor Ragnarok beforehand, it's like, oh, it's such a funny movie. I was like, oh fuck, they're doing this shit again. It's like the MCU like got a lot of credit like leading up to and like, in the aftermath of the first Avengers movie of like
deservedly so.
Oh, finally somebody who just embraces the inherent silliness of comic movies. I'm like, they really don't. They just show stuff from the comic books and then have a character make a joke about it, like a wink wink nudge nudge thing to the audience. Like, you know what? I would much rather see a movie that like just goes balls deep on the absurdity and doesn't make any excuses for it with like jokes or anything.
And like
yeah, be funny when it's appropriate, but like just have the comedy come from the characters, not from having Tony Stark riff on like, oh, there's a giant thing, that's weird.
And like
right, audience, that's fucking stupid, right?
And like that's why I love the Wonder Woman film, is because it does this thing that I've coined. It sort of does this term that I've coined when I was sitting in a dark room by myself, contemplating my existence in life, which is the Wonder Woman film takes the silliness seriously. It doesn't make the serious silly, and that's what the MCU does. Is there is a moment in Doctor Strange where Doctor Strange is dressed in his full garb. He's got his cape on, and the music swells, and it's supposed to be this big iconic moment. And then there's a gag. And then there's a gag, and you're like, no,
wasn't that when they did like the fucking Who's on First thing with him and Mads Mikkelsen?
Yes, and it's like, no, you don't do that. You let it play out. That's how you build up the.
Stop making excuses for yourself.
Yes.
Just do it.
Stop being self-referential and meta, or trying to be in on the joke. There's no joke to be in on.
I really do wish that they would just like stop doing comic book movies where all the jokes are about the characters making excuses for why things are ridiculous, and just like
make it ridiculous.
Yeah, just have the like, if there's gonna be comedy, just let it come from the characters. Like,
have the balls to go all out, and that's why I love.
I kind of think there, for at least my taste, there could be a break from comic book movies, or at least scale back and space them out.
Sure,
yeah. I'm a fucking nerd, and I'm even saying like, we could take a break.
And I feel like the reason why I think people are saying that, Ian, is because I think that people feel like they're seeing the same thing. I mean, like the last
for somebody who doesn't read comic books that much, I feel like some of the characters blend together. Granted, I did read Watchmen twice.
Yeah, but
but it feels like they're just turning out the same product, and that's why Logan works so well, because it's completely different from anything that we've seen. And
life is hard, and then you die. Roll credits.
Yes, I think it was Ava DuVernay who said in a roundtable of directors, she said that after The Dark Knight came out, she thought that we were going to. She thought that people were going to make more superheroes like that, where they take a genre. And they take a character and they mesh them together. They don't take,
and really the only example since then has been the Winter Soldier.
Yes, has been the Winter Soldier and Logan, and those are the two characters, and those are two movies where these are the type of superhero films that we should be making.
They just took Captain America and they put him in Falcon and the Snowman.
Yes,
which is perfect because Robert Redford's in both of them.
Yes, and that works. And they took Wolverine and they said, what's the fundamental identity of this character?
That he can't die. He can't get old, he can't get tired, and he can't die.
And where would that fit best? In a Western.
Let's make an entire movie where he just gets old and tired and then he dies.
Let's make Unforgiven, but with Wolverine. And it works.
Yeah.
That's why The Dark Knight works. It's like, let's make Heat, but with Batman. And it works. And that's why that's why the Wonder Woman movie worked. It's like, let's make a war movie with Wonder Woman, and it works. I feel like those are the type of superhero movies that we should be getting instead of stuff like Spider-Man: Homecoming, which I wasn't a big fan of because I feel like it did what most of the MCU films do, where it's like, we're going to take this superhero and lightly dip it in this genre, but it's mostly just going to be for fun and shits and giggles.
Yeah. If they straight up did Breakfast... Okay, if you straight up did Breakfast Club with Spider-Man, it's you could even just straight up rip off Breakfast Club. I wouldn't care. He's stuck in detention and he's got to find ways to sneak out and beat Spider-Man.
Yeah. Or just do imagine 16 Candles, but throughout the film, Molly Ringwald has to go out and fight crime.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That to me is what a Spider-Man movie should be.
I honestly I just said it off the top of my head, but now I really want to see just a straight up rip off of the Breakfast Club, but one of the kids is Spider-Man.
Yes.
And throughout the day, he's fighting a villain and it's ramping up to
freaking Sandman
climax.
Is off robbing the bank, he's got to go off and
but it ramps up to some sort of big climactic fight at the end, and then he has to get back to detention, and it's just oh yeah, you saved New York City and everybody's lives. It's hey Peter, you
still have detention. Yeah,
you can go home now.
Yeah,
fuck you.
And that's endemic to who Peter Parker is as a character.
Yeah, he saves everybody's lives and then he goes back to being Peter Parker and nobody gives a shit.
Yes, and I think and so going forward with stuff like Black Panther and the Captain Marvel movie. I hope that they do what they did with films like the second Guardians film and Logan, in which they take the characters seriously and they adapt them in a genre that works.
Yeah,
you know,
and like you can have comedy in these movies, but like don't use comedy to like create a degree of separation between your source material. Like comedy shouldn't come from like the fact that this is ridiculous. Comedy should just come from the characters.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Like any good comedy, it comes from the characters. Like if you put Batman and Superman in a room, you can, like there's a lot of inherent friction between those characters. It can create drama or it can create comedy just from like their worldviews and who they are as people. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm wearing a bat costume. Isn't that weird?
And like fundamentally understand your characters, because I don't think. And going back to Zack Snyder, watching Batman v Superman, I don't think he got Batman because like if you watch that film and you're a right wing, that movie must be like a wet dream. You must like be in love with Batman.
Yeah,
because he's Rush Limbaugh and Alex Jones in a bat suit. That's who he is, and it's scary. I
don't like Superman putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay, Alfred.
There's that speech where Batman gives to Alfred, where he's like, if there's even a 1% chance of that Superman is bad, then we must take that as an absolute certainty to kill him.
That's why we have to nuke Japan.
Holy shit! Did we just say that?
That's why we have to drop the bomb on Japan.
Yeah, it's like no subtlety at all within that movie. It's weird how didn't Zack Snyder say that he wanted to adapt the Fountainhead? Yes. And we gave that guy Superman.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking like the one like superhero that we should give him is Blue Beetle,
or just give him like Spawn and just here.
No, just give him Blue Beetle because like Steve Ditko was like the guy who did like the second Blue Beetle, Ted Kord. Like, the original Charlton Comics stuff of Blue Beetle was all done by Steve Ditko, and he's like a hardline objectivist.
Yeah,
and like he like layered that shit into those comics. So like let's just let him adapt like the original Charlton Blue Beetle comics.
Don't give him Superman and the Flash
and
with his Anne Ryan
and he can
bullshit.
Basically adapt the Fountainhead, but with superheroes and fight scenes, which is I'm pretty sure Zack Snyder's wet dream.
It is. He probably masturbates to that every night.
Just give him.
He just like opens up the Fountainhead and just whips out his dick and just starts masturbating.
Just give him Blue Beetle. He can do the Fountainhead and he can do superheroes and he can do violence. It's everything he wants.
Everything he wants.
I would probably like it, even though I wouldn't agree with the politics.
And then at the end of shooting, at the end of shooting the film, he will explode of sheer joy and excitement,
and then roll over and fall asleep.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's I'm both optimistic and concerned about the future of superhero movies. As a giant fan, like if we were to go back to like middle school, and you were to and like our future selves were to go back and tell us, in like 10 years that they're gonna make a Justice League movie, it's not gonna be very good, I would punch myself in the dick. I'd be like, are you kidding me?
The thing is, before the movie even starts, Superman's dead.
Yeah.
And then I would punch my future self in the dick. Not because I had anything to do with the decision, but just because I was mad and both of us would understand I'd had to take it out somewhere.
You killed Superman before Justice League.
Also, that is like a once in a generation, like cinematic emotional wad, and you blew it. And I'm
the second film in your universe.
Superman is my favorite, not only my favorite superhero, but my favorite fictional character. Period. I watched him die on screen in gruesome detail and felt fucking nothing
in the most haphazard way ever.
Yeah, I felt a similar way about two bands that I liked in high school: Touche Amore and Converge.
Douche Amore. That took me straight back to high school when you told me you liked a band called Touche Amore, and I immediately called them Douche Amore.
Yeah,
because I was really clever in high school.
Yeah,
weren't we all?
Of course,
weren't we all? Though?
Anyways, I loved both these bands in high school. Not many people I knew did, even though I introduced them to some people and made new fans. Anyways, I thought they would never get bad, and both of them have put out bad albums now. Of course.
Boy.
Don't you hate it when that happens though? When there's an artist that you feel can do no wrong, and then they shit the bed.
Definitely do wrong.
They just randomly shit the bed, and you're like, oh, I guess that was a one-off. And then they continue shitting the bed, and you're like, wait, what happened to the guy that I liked?
Yeah,
a few years back.
Converge's album from 2017, The Dusk in Us. I liked it kind of on the first listen, but as I listened to it more, I was like, this isn't that good. Why did I put this on my best albums of the year list?
It gives me such pain to like watch talented people just shit the bed frequently. Like
I've seen you do good. I know you're good. What happened?
Convergent was good for so many years. They put out like 7 or 8 albums I like, but the newest one doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, like I saw I saw the new Liam Neeson movie last night, which is bad. And before
it looked so promising, though.
They showed a trailer for the Bruce Willis remake of Death Wish, and I'm like, I remember.
Oh shit, I forgot that was happening.
And like watching
like most
it,
of America,
and like watching it, I'm like, I remember when Bruce Willis did Die Hard and Unbreakable and Signs, and when he was actually acting and good, and now he's just
was
sleeping.
He in Signs?
Oh no, not Signs. The Sixth Sense. Sorry,
yeah, Sixth Sense. Yeah.
And it's it's weird. And now he's slumming it, and you could see him sleepwalking. He's literally sleepwalking through that movie.
Like going back to Kevin Smith, like he had stories about like when he did Cop Out, a movie that's title describes exactly what it is.
Yes, exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah, but like he was talking about how Bruce Willis was a nightmare to work with, and like, okay, we're gonna shoot this scene today, and Bruce Willis would just look at me like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. What? But this is a pivotal scene. The plot needs it. Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to do it.
It's just so sad to watch an artist that you love just give up. You know what I mean?
Like I remember like the entire like appeal of Die Hard was like that it was like in the midst of the 1980s when like every action hero was like Rambo or like any Schwarzenegger movie where they were just like these indestructible meat mountains who never got shot, and like the worst that ever happened was like they scraped their knee and it's like, oh wow, he really went through it. It's like, and then here's a guy who's like, in decent shape, but he's just like has an average build. He's kind of, his hair's thinning. He's divorced. He's just not doing that great.
He's just a schlub.
Yeah, he's not doing that great.
And he's kind of an asshole.
And he's kind of an asshole. You can understand why Bonnie Bedelia left him.
Yes.
And like, so he's not this like Adonis. He's not this indestructible meat mountain. And like, he gets fucking haggard throughout that movie. He gets tired. He gets bloody. He gets like a broken up face. He slices his feet to shit running over broken glass.
The end of the movie, he can barely stand, and then like by the third movie, and then by the fourth movie, he's tap dancing on a jet.
Die Hard's success was its own undoing.
Yes.
Because like, that cemented Bruce Willis as an action hero, and then they made him a typical action hero. And then, that completely undermines the appeal of Die Hard.
And like, I feel like we rarely get heroes like Die Hard and like Indiana Jones and the first Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, where it's just they just stumble through the whole thing.
They just get the shit knocked out of them over and over and over again. And like, I think people have gotten used to these like heroes who like always persevere and who always come up on top. Despite their lengthy, trial process within the film, they come up on top and they can stand up high with their chest puffed out and smile and and walk away.
And like we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but like a really frustrating thing in blockbusters now, like whether it's the hero or the villain who's doing it's like there's no such thing as like accidents and shit happens anymore in movies. It's in these blockbusters because it's like, oh yeah, all this shit is happening. That's like the plan's going off the rails, and then somebody will practically look at the camera and be like, just like I planned. It's like
that was a thing that villains did ever since The Dark Knight, where like the villain's plan was to get caught. That was a part of his plan to get caught. That's in The Dark Knight. That's in Star Trek Into Darkness. That's in Skyfall. That's in the first Avengers movie, where it's my plan to get caught. Like,
but like either the hero or the villain will do it, where like everything is falling apart, and then they'll just be like, it's all going according to plan. It's like, fuck that.
Really? That's your plan?
Yeah, and
to make everything go to shit?
And that's why I like The Last Jedi so much, because like they had this plan, they put all this time and effort into it, and it's like, okay, it's gonna work, and then it doesn't work. And there's no twist. It wasn't like that was what they were planning for all along. It's just the plan didn't work. Tough shit, you got to adapt.
Yeah, and like that's us.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
And so like that's also why I love Last Jedi so much, is because it goes back to this idea that like its whole thesis is about failure and like about flaws, and like this ties into why I kind of despise nostalgia culture now is because especially now that we're just jerking off the 80s so much that it's slowly becoming a dry cow, is that people look back on stuff like Star Wars, and especially in like Empire Strikes Back, where like all the characters fail, and when The Last Jedi does something similar, they call foul, and like that's not how a movie works. And
the entire Han and Leia in the Falcon storyline is just them trying their best to get away.
Yes.
And failing.
Yes. And they fail. Like Darth Vader
it's like, all right, the hyperdrive probably works now.
When they show up on Cloud City, little do they know they were already failing. You know, they're like, we got the Cloud City, we got away. The next day, Darth Vader shows up. It's like, yes, I've been here for the past 2 days. What the hell, you know? And
that movie is just like the heroes failing a lot.
And
the opening scene is like this rousing battle scene, but it's like the rebels lose, and their only victory is that most of them get away.
Yeah, most of them, and like this is why I hate this whole nostalgia culture, is because we built up these films so much that we don't see what made them work in the first place.
It's exactly the same thing as Die Hard. Like, it worked because like John McClane as a character wasn't the typical action hero, and then we turned him into the typical action hero because those movies were successful.
And we turned him into like this like gun-ho stereotypical right wing. You know,
the 80s are DJ Khaled suffering from success.
Yes, it's just and it's sort of like looking back on a decade that, like, I mean, aside from maybe pop culture, the 80s was a kind of a shit decade.
Yeah, Reagan, Nixon, Thatcher.
Like, it was a shit. It was a shitty decade, and we look back now we look back on it as like this great, like, prosperous,
because the culture is what survived, even though the actual like historical shit is what we're actually living with in the real world now.
To the point where we're getting a movie that's nothing but 80s culture in Spielberg's next movie, which is
Ready Player
One, which is just him jerking himself off.
Kind of starting in the 80s was the 50s revival, which the 50s
was like the worst decade in America.
And now the 80s is our 50s. Both sociologically just terrible.
And that's why
but there was some neat cultural stuff, so we venerate it.
That's why I fucking hate this whole idea of nostalgia culture.
Rockabilly people.
Is that it takes a snapshot of what worked, and that's
leaves out all the other shit.
Small decade, and just leaves out wholesale shit of stuff that was like endemic of while people were like in that, like, people forget while people were like living in the 80s, the threat of a nuclear the threat of Mad Max Fury Road was an actual possibility.
I think we're remembering what that's like now.
And now people,
which means like in 30 years our kids are going to be really nostalgic for
us, and we're going to be like, you have no idea.
And we're going to be like, you had no idea. Sure, the music was dope and the movies were cool, but you gotta understand, Trump was president.
It's like Trump was president, even if we got trap music,
and he still is. His head in a jar is still the president in 2048.
And like just today, there was a fake. I fucking hate to use this term, but there was a fake news about someone launching a missile in Hawaii.
Yeah, well, it was. You don't have to feel bad about it because like it was.
ICBM.
It was a valid term. Fake news was a valid term, and then Trump and his people hijacked it.
Yeah, and
to be like, anything that's critical of me is fake news.
CNN is fake news.
It was a real term for like the kind of shit that gets churned out online, and then he hijacked it to protect himself from criticism.
And like I hope that in 20 years, when we look back on this, we see. I mean, I hope that like kids who are growing up now, and when they look back, they see the pattern of one decade is prosperous, one decade is shit, one decade is prosperous, one decade is shit, and so like
the 90s, like
the 90s was fucking great.
Maybe not quite as culturally rich as the 80s,
but it was fucking great.
Yeah, we were in an economic surplus. No threats of nuclear war. It was pretty good.
We had like music calling out the government and calling out racial injustice and all that shit.
We weren't in any like super huge military conflicts.
No,
things were pretty good in the 90s.
Things were but like nobody gives two shits about the 90s because E.T. wasn't in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this film made me feel warm, and that's why I look back on it fondly. It's like, no.
No, your parents were like staying up late at night because they were worried that it was all going to end one day in a bright flash.
That's
Because
the only people who I could think of, like, I keep on bringing up music, but musicians look back to the 90s for, like, the grunge era and shoegaze.
Yeah.
90s revival is pretty hot right now in music.
Yes.
And I'm just terrified of the fact that it's gonna come pretty soon.
It's
gonna last a lot. Like it's not gonna last anywhere near as long as the 80s. Because like at least in terms of like movies and TV, there really is not as much stuff for the 90s to mine from the 90s.
But like people, and like we keep making live action films off of 80s cartoons when like 80s cartoons were terrible.
Oh yeah, they were terrible. Like
they were 30-minute.
I thought the appeal was that they were terrible.
Yes, they were 30-minute toy commercials.
Yeah, they were 30-minute toy commercials with like 5 frames per second.
And so when people complain about stuff, I mean, like, look, the Transformers are bad movies. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah, but they're a very different strain of bad than the cartoon was.
But like the cartoon wasn't that great either.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So like it's just weird catch-20. I mean, look, Michael Bay is a terrible director, and the Transformers movies are bad, and you can make a good Transformers movie.
I'm sure you could,
but you can't expect much from that type of source material.
I was never even really as a kid. I was never even really that big of a fan of Transformers.
Me neither.
Like, it was specifically targeted to appeal to kids, so I got into it a little bit every now and then. I was like, oh, that's neat. But like I never really got into it the way that a lot of kids did, especially like in the 80s. A lot of kids got into it. But like
the toys were more fun than the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were fucking Rubik's Cubes that turned into a fucking robot. That's awesome. Yeah. But like even then, like, I was never really into it as a kid. I never really had like deep rooted nostalgia over Transformers. But like, like now I'm reading like the licensed Transformers comics that IDW is putting out, and like they're a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But like when it's good, it's really fucking good.
Yeah.
And you can make a decent movie out of like that kind of stuff. It's like it really does surprise me. Like every once in a while, it just really surprises me like what they can milk out of Transformers story wise.
Yeah, and like they made a Jim and the Holograms movie, and I'm like,
I forgot about that.
Why did you make a Jim and the Holograms movie?
Didn't it only get like a limited release?
It bombed. It bombed horrifically.
It bombed almost as bad as the Oogie Loves and the Balloon Adventure.
But the Oogie Loves movie is a treasure. It is a masterpiece. You shut your filthy mouth. That is this generation's 2001 of its sheer weirdness. But they made a Jim and the Holograms movie to inspire girls, and like I'm like,
and then all the girls were just like, yeah, we'll wait for Wonder Woman in 5 years,
and so I'm like, if you want to adapt a TV show that inspires girls, make a live action Kim Possible movie.
Oh fuck,
a live action Kim Possible movie. It's a fucking high school chick who on the side is like James Bond but better and competent and doesn't blindly walk into trap situations
and doesn't spread VD over all the continents.
Yes, she actually is good at her job. Make a Kim Possible movie.
Maybe drink some martini the right way.
Yes, maybe.
I mean, she's a teenager, so.
But
but you could update Kim Possible to be like in college.
Oh yeah,
or something.
what if it's not like an adaptation of the show? What if it's just like 10 years later and like she's like an adult now?
Yeah, like just and like there's like so much better stuff to like remember fondly than this cultural bubble that we're in. It's sort of like people hold up like stuff like Star Wars to this high standard, and like as I was saying earlier, Star Wars as a franchise kind of sucks.
Yeah, its batting average is not great.
Its batting average is not great. I think collectively now, after seeing The Last Jedi, there's like 4 good Star Wars movies. There's the first one, which is good because of its cultural status.
Yeah, it fucking came out and changed everything.
Yes, there's 5, which is a good movie. There's The Force Awakens.
That's like transcendently good. Like you can just watch that anywhere.
Yeah,
any
just pop it on, and it's a great fucking movie. There's Force Awakens, and then there's The Last Jedi. And then you go to stuff like Return of the Jedi, which outside of final fight scene,
it's a very hot and cold movie. Like the stuff about Luke's character arc
is great.
It goes exactly where it needs to go, and it's very fulfilling.
Everything else is just kind of there.
Everything else is like, hey, what if we did Jim Henson but worse?
And then you go into the prequels, and it's just and like it's bad and okay.
Yeah,
and people forgive
Misa Jar Jar.
Stop it.
Fucking Jar Jar, like people.
Binks.
Like it's weird. Like I was watching Phantom Menace like 2 months ago, and it's fucking the shit that Lucas got away
The only
with.
part I liked from like the prequel was Darth Maul.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then
Maul was
he
sick.
was a nothing. He was better in the cartoons because they actually made him a
yes,
character.
and then the first movie they sawed him in half, and you're like, well, that happened, and you're like,
And then
wow,
and
what
then
a
they put
build
him
up.
back together in the cartoons. It's like, oh, he's like a character now. And
Yes.
He has lines and,
Oh
he's,
wow,
and a personality.
There's actual depth, you know.
Yeah.
and like you know,
Star Wars
and
Episode 1: The Phantom Menace is the most disappointing thing since my son.
it is.
I'm gonna have to cut out that line. It's like peaking so much.
It's just you know, and like
the point, man.
and so when people like get all ballistic over like the Last Jedi
Yeah.
subverting everything, I'm like,
Yeah, it was subversive, which is exactly what it needed to be.
it's what needed to be. Because we've been stagnant for like the past 30 years.
Everybody who didn't like Force Awakens shat on it for being too much of the same, but it was like loading the bases for Last Jedi to be like,
No, yeah.
everything's different now, and now everybody's like, why is everything different? I want it to be the same.
And like I feel like there's no happy medium between like
They are
these-
going to cut it off after 9, right?
No,
for a while, like at least
they're making
I
a new-
think they're probably going to cool it for a while, but like
uh,
Disney bought this for $4 billion.
$billion.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
they're
definitely
gonna-
going to milk it.
They're
gonna
gonna
milk
milk
this
it.
cow.
I just wish they would cut it off after 9. Personally,
just like wait at least 10 years to do like another like official trilogy.
It's weird to think that we're gonna get a Star Wars movie every year for forever. Probably
It's a little crazy.
It's weird to think.
Yeah.
You know, like back in high school, I would have never thought that I would get a Star Wars movie every year until I probably die. you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's such a weird.
as long as they go to like as long as
it's such a weird.
it's weird
thing
because
to,
like when you look at like the behind the scenes stuff of like Rogue One and now the Han Solo movie, it's like it seems like they're micromanaged too much when it's like it seemed like that was like the hope for like this franchise having like structural integrity all this time. It's like, yeah, we'll do like the main trilogy that's like more like traditional Star Wars, and then we'll do these other movies where we can be like a little bit more offbeat,
more
and,
experimental and stuff like that.
Yeah, but like
But
now,
don't be too experimental
Not
because
too
the fans.
let's fire the directors and get Ron Howard.
Yes.
Ron Howard can do exactly what we want him to.
Yes, and it's you know and that's also a problem, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm scared.
Just let him run loose, dude.
And so that's why I'm kind of scared to
Yeah.
be to go into this industry, is because this industry is very self-congratulatory to the point where it's
La
kind
La
of
Land.
yes, exactly, to the point where it's kind of weird and kind of uncomfortable, you know, and like
Yeah.
and like I was talking about this with my friend on Facebook. This whole burst of like movement of getting rid of the sexual predators that have been systemic in Hollywood for a while is a great thing.
Yeah.
But suddenly when you turn on the Golden Globes, it's turned into a fashion statement, and people are dressed in black and they're
yeah.
wearing
Like,
pins, and
yeah,
it's like
it wasn't. But even then, like that's like performative, and like didn't Justin Timberlake get called out for like doing a Instagram post where he's like, yeah, I support the Time's Up movement. It's like somebody was just like, yeah, you're in a new movie with Woody. You're in a new Woody Allen movie.
Yeah,
so it's like how yeah. So it is performative to a certain extent. Like you gotta learn to like tune out all the performative shit and look for the stuff that actually
and
matters.
just look
the statements that actually matter.
A couple steps away, I found an article that has like PC culture gone too far. The Office
Oh,
is
boy.
getting harder to watch, saying The Office isn't PC enough.
Well, I mean.
It isn't, but like,
yeah.
it's not worth like writing an article about.
Yeah. I don't think it's
my main. Like,
It's meant as satire. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to like Michael.
Yeah, my main retrospect on The Office is that Jim's kind of a dick.
yeah.
Yeah, like prank, like the occasional prank is one thing, but you're straight up harassing Dwight. He straight up gaslit Dwight in multiple episodes. Like, I get Dwight was weird, but why do you get to be that kind of a dick, Jim Halpert?
Didn't he pretend to die in Dwight's hotel room? I think like there's an episode where
think-
like him and like Dwight are sharing a hotel room, and Dwight comes in and Jim is hung up in the freaking closet with
I don't
slash
care how
marks.
awkward your coworker is. You don't get to gaslight them, Jim Halpert.
I think like part of the point of The Office is to like gradually show how bad Jim is. Like, there's an interim manager that's on Jim's case and like is trying to
there was like
Yeah.
a through line in like some of the later seasons of like kind of
calling him out on his shit,
kind
yeah.
of reading Jim out, and like even kind of insinuating that he's slowly becoming the worst parts of Michael.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but like that really wasn't enough.
He starts feeling ashamed of himself for resonating with Michael.
Yeah, they still let him off the hook more than he should have been.
Apparently, they're going to make a new season of The Office. Which
No,
I'm like, really?
Didn't we learn anything from Scrubs?
Yes.
Let it end.
They finished it off pretty well. I don't think they need another season.
Scrubs ended as well as it could, and then they brought it back, and it sucked. Don't bring The Office back.
To quote Kevin Smith on the sequel to Beetlejuice, didn't we say all that we had to say with the first one? Didn't we say all that we had to say
like
with The
9
Office?
seasons of The Office.
That's why I'm glad that Parks and Rec with its finale basically sealed itself out from a revival. Like they flashed in the future and showed how all these characters go their separate ways, get old, and even some of them die.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, there's nowhere to go. We've covered all of our bases all the way to the end of time.
Don't ask for another one.
I suppose if they really want to do a revival in like 5 to 8 years, they could go in the between period between like the end and,
or even better,
and the Flash.
Do what franchises are doing now, and it's their kids. Now they have to save the rec center.
Parks and Rec should stay the same though.
Parks and Rec's next generation.
Parks and Rec, it's like it's Ron's son, but he's also played by Nick Offerman.
Yes, it's
even
a bunch
though
of
he's
Gen
supposed
Zs.
to be like maybe 20.
Yes, it's the next generation saving Parks and Rec by not doing anything except scrolling on their phones and hashtagging movements.
Wait a minute, Parks and Recreation, the next generation. And it's like Nick Offerman doing the opening. It's like these slow panoramic shots of Parks,
the final frontier.
We have to pitch
3/4 of the
to
characters
NBC.
are going to have VR headsets on and are watching porn for the entire series.
Wasn't that kind of season 6?
Yeah,
when they jumped into the future of 2017.
Yes. Yeah, that. I do hope that they leave Parks and Rec alone. And it's this weird thing with Hollywood, and it's like, see, we're bringing this thing back that you love, and we're not going to do anything with it because you loved it the way it is, right?
Just here it is again.
Just here it is again. Give us brownie points.
Yeah, which is exactly like the kind of criticism that people leveled at The Force Awakens. But then The Last Jedi said, like, okay, we're going to, here's the thing that you love from your childhood. We love it too, but now let's dig into it, analyze the parts about it, the lore and its themes that didn't work, and then change shit. And people were like, fuck you, don't do that.
No, it's not like the original trilogy.
And
you know what I mean?
Yeah, people were shitting on Force Awakens for being too much like the original trilogy and this one for being too subversive. It's like, where are you fucking happy?
There's a thing that happened when The Force Awakens came out, when people are like, no way, it's not going to be as good as the original trilogy. And like, from my perspective, I'm like, it's probably not, because you've had 30 years to build up the original trilogy to this godlike status to where nothing will ever be able to touch it. And so now that people are trying to do something different, and it's not like what you remember, which the thing that you remember isn't all that good to begin with, now you're in a catch-22 place of like, well, if I like this thing, you kind of feel like you're shitting on what came before, when it's not.
At least they do keep some original characters like Han Solo,
and then they kill him off.
Boom. And then they killed him off.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, like, dude, when like he was watching like the two sons.
The two sons? Like, how can you not like that?
And the music swells, and then he just becomes empty clothes. Dude, Ian was sitting right next to me in the theater, and I just like completely like sank into my chair. I was like,
how can you not love that?
Shit, that wrecked me, dude. I had just worked a 9-hour shift. I moved 5 couches in 20 minutes, and then I came home, showered, took a shit, and went to go see The Last Jedi. I was drained.
I think it's like a perfect film, but I'm slowly realizing that I am in the minority. For reasons
that movie cut a lot of things in half.
Escape
the Supreme Leader Snoke.
Speaking of things that get cut in half,
the Skywalker Legacy lightsaber, it broke that in half. The Star Wars fan base, it cut that right in half.
I praise Rian Johnson so much for just saying fuck it.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
Yeah.
Like, imagine Rian Johnson reading the script for The Force Awakens and going, so
all this, and like JJ, all this mystery box stuff that you did. Fuck that. I'm not going to answer any of it. I'm going to tell everybody that it doesn't matter.
Hey, JJ, who's Snoke? I don't know. It's a mystery. No,
okay,
I'm
cool.
kill him.
I'm just going to kill him.
I'm just going to kill him. No, wait. What?
So,
yeah, I'm just going to kill him.
Who are Rey's parents, JJ?
It's a mystery.
I don't know. Okay, cool. They're nobody. Yeah, and it works thematically, JJ. But no, mystery box. Fuck you. It's called a theme.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant,
Yeah. I really,
it's what most blockbusters should be doing now, I think.
And like the next one is going to go, like the reins are going to go back to J.J. Abrams, and I really hope he doesn't try to walk it back.
I hope So,
like, I hope he doesn't say like, "Oh yeah, Kylo Ren was lying when he said that Rey's parents were nobody. They're actually super important."
They're actually Han Solo and Leia. Ooh.
Even though he clearly didn't know who the fuck she was.
Yes.
In the previous movie, like, yeah,
But
like,
he was pretending.
Yeah,
you know?
I really do like the idea that she's just fucking nobody.
It makes sense.
And she just happens to be strong with the Force and shit. Like, like, as much as I do love the original trilogy, but like there is a pretty problematic like through line of people like being like these pure-blooded elites,
yes.
and that's what's important. It's like even the everyman character like Luke Skywalker, he comes from dirt, but it turns out he has a secret elite lineage, and that's what makes him important. It's like, nah, I'm not into that. So to say that like the main character of this one, who's gonna like save the galaxy and everything, is just some asshole from podunk nowhere. Actually, some asshole from podunk nowhere is better for me.
And just you saying that, I got this thought, and I was interested to hear both of you guys' takes on it. Is I think that the inherentness of films like Star Wars and Harry Potter and stuff like the second rebooted Spider-Man films all tap into this thing about destiny. And I think that inherently, on a subconscious level, that might have that sort of thing of I come from nothing, but I'm destined for greatness.
It's like it's not even like I come from nothing, but I'm destined for greatness. It's I come from nothing, but I secretly don't come from nothing.
I think that
which is bullshit because like almost everybody comes from nothing.
I think
then like to say like, oh yeah, I'm secretly better than everybody else because of how I was born. It's like,
I think that
is that really inspiring for the rest of us?
I think that type of thinking has sunk into in a certain extent, like into our generation and to the next generation, that secretly, you know, like we're like better than everybody else, or secretly we're like destined for these great things. And like I think that has like systemically ruined or not ruined, but like handicapped our generation.
Yeah. It's undermined us
to like aspire to be, you know, do different things and be better, and to dial back into conformity, because you know what, the things are going to work out for me in the end.
Yeah.
Because it worked out for like Luke and for Harry Potter, so they're going to work out for me too.
I think even though like millennial hate goes a bit too far at times,
it's weird.
Like I sort of get
bad.
the complaints too when I look at certain people in our generation with the helicopter parenting style, where they say like, "Oh, you're going to do the best things in the world. I'm going to prepare you. I'm going to set you up, and then you're going to fail."
Yeah. I mean, like, it is kind of like, you know, fiction definitely like, impacts reality, and the kind of media that you consume, you know, impacts your worldview. And so even if it's just like a subtle thing at the back of your mind, you are kind of taught to think like, oh yeah, if I'm like inherently special, then even if I'm coming from nothing, then if I just work hard and focus on just the fact that I'm inherently special, then things will work out for me. And then the second that things stop working out for you, you're like, oh, well, I guess I wasn't special. I guess I'll give up.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you don't have to depend on being special. You just have to depend on like doing your shit.
And like I feel like that also seeps into what's wrong with us as a country, is that the whole idea of the American model is like, if you work hard, you too can achieve the
American dream, American exceptionalism, all that.
And
yeah.
you dig into like what the American dream is, and like I'm sorry, but like it's inherently privileged and somewhat racist idealism that is this sort of unobtainable gem for like 99% of the country.
Oh yeah,
and like the 1% gets it by skating by barely.
Yeah,
you know.
And if you go into like the nitty gritty, showing just like you can see just how much like large demographics of people were cut off at the knees, like in every aspect of life, to prevent like, you know, their success. And so when people say like, oh yeah, if you just work hard you can succeed, it's like, nah, not when you're like deliberately excluded. Not when you're deliberately excluded from housing, deliberately paid less at a job, deliberately like all this shit is set up against
discriminating
you.
College applications.
Yeah. All this shit is set up against you. So like, that's really not true. We should try to make it true in the next couple generations. It's going to take a while.
Hopefully. Yeah. And like it's almost impossible to break out of your social economic status.
Yeah.
It's like literally like it's damn near impossible. And the few people that do it, I admire them to a certain extent. But this whole idea of like Donald Trump's son has the same opportunities and choices as someone like you or you or Ian or me is like utter bullshit.
Yeah, dude. Donald Trump's son? Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Mr. Small loan of $1 million from my dad.
Yes. And
Donald Trump.
And like
he was a self-made man, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, that guy.
Yeah, and like it's weird, and like even like if you dig deeper further, it's weirder to look at how the political parties have switched over.
Oh yeah.
And
they more or less swap platforms in the 60s.
Wholesale in the 60s.
Yeah.
And like whereas in the back in the times of slavery and the Reconstruction period,
Lincoln was a Republican, and most of the Democrats voted against emancipation.
If Lincoln was alive today, he'd be the target of like every right-wing media on the planet.
Yeah. Alex Jones would have a field day on Abraham Lincoln as a fucking globalist.
The president is often the most hated person in America. I'm hoping we're gonna get a female president eventually. So that's why I say person.
Yeah, I think for decades now it's been like a thing to like a local theater company will just do a production of Julius Caesar and have him be like an obvious stand-in of the current president.
Yeah.
And like only this one got in hot water because it was Donald Trump, and Fox News had a field day with like, if this was Obama, you would hear all about it on MSNBC. And it's like they did Obama. They did it with Obama, and nobody cared.
Yeah,
because it's just a thing they do.
Yeah,
and Obama has a sense of humor.
Yeah, he
has actual thick skin instead of bragging about I have the thickest skin of anybody. And anybody who tells me I don't is just fake news.
He lashed out against the media like a few times, but like he was under so much pressure and he was inheriting like such a mess.
Remember when he first took office and like the housing market had just crashed and we had two wars that nobody really knew why we were in the wars.
800,000 jobs lost in a month.
And you walk into that just like imagine that first day.
I can understand getting pissed off at the media every once in a while because remember that one time he was getting interviewed and he swatted a fly and they just analyzed that shit for 2 weeks.
It's just
remember when a shoe was thrown at George W. Bush?
That one made sense.
Yeah, that one was cool.
So, and like now you have
shoe guy's a hero,
and so now you have a president who self claims himself to be a genius,
a very stable genius
on Twitter.
I've got the best words. I've got the biggest words.
He threatens nuclear war every other week on Twitter while probably taking a shit. If the media is giving him a hard time and analyzing all of his shit, that makes sense because he's giving them a lot to work with. So he can't really have a chip on his shoulder about it.
I just wish the media would have
made sense because they analyzed his shit about swatting a fly for 2 weeks.
I wish they would have like given Donald Trump a little bit less coverage in the presidential race.
Yeah, if they hadn't,
he might have not stood as much of a chance.
If they hadn't given it like. I remember like after Election Day, like I don't remember like which news branch it was, but like it was like MSNBC or something, and they just came in the day after and they were like, "Oh fuck, we might have covered him too much."
Yeah, and
it's like you gave him free publicity for a year. And what do you fucking think
that's
is
why I
gonna
never
happen?
shared anything about like Donald Trump during his candidacy. Pretty much. Like everybody was sharing articles like, no, you're doing the wrong thing. This is what's going to get him elected.
Yeah, if you share something, if you give publicity to something saying like, oh, isn't this horrible? Most people are going to be like, yeah, this is horrible. But then you're going to show that to one person who's like, go on. And that person's going to vote for it.
Just like the
and
old
it
saying.
Increases the share count too, so it makes him seem like more of a legitimate thing in the social media
And then
era.
when he sees the share count, he can finally achieve orgasm.
And I feel like the reason why Trump won is because like people vastly underestimated him, especially like
they vastly underestimated America. And the horrible shit we're capable of.
There was this. I think Jordan Peele was talking about this. How like when Obama got elected, there was this whole idea of this like post-racial lie, and like finally we have arrived, and we have made it, and we have aspired the American dream. And so I think people had that mentality going into the election saying, we elected a black guy. Surely we're going to elect
civic
Clinton.
Duty done. We're clean.
And so I think that like you could kind of see that with the Democratic Party and their campaign too, as they were sort of touting Donald Trump as that loud kid in the back of the class that occasionally yells out weird shit and go, "Oh, don't pay attention to him." And then one day that kid comes to school with an M16 and kills 12 people, you know?
Oh, shit. That's an apt but disturbing analogy.
Yeah, and so you're like, oh, maybe we should have done something about that kid when he was yelling out racial slurs in the back of the class.
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
Well, like, yeah, this past year was like, I feel like it was both political parties' dirty laundry coming to a head. Like,
yes,
Donald Trump as a candidate was like a monkey's paw style, careful what you wish for manifestation of all the cancerous shit going on inside the GOP. So much so that even they hated him.
Yes,
because he was too much like them.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, he was a caricature of their beliefs.
Yes, isn't that weird?
Like, the entire process of like how the DNC ran the campaign contributed to how they lost. Like, the people said, yeah, we want this person. And the DNC was like, no, you want this person.
Yes. You want this
Eat your vegetables.
We want the angry grandpa. Come on.
No, you want the stern lady who did some bad shit.
Yeah, and, you know...
Like, and also, like, the entire idea of, like, the Republicans are now like, oh, we're standing for all the worst shit that people don't want to admit that they believe. And the Democrats are like, well... If we take a strong stance on anything, then we might turn off people who don't share our stance. So what if we just stood for nothing?
Yes.
And then everybody will vote for us. And then nobody did.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's all this shit coming to a head.
Yeah.
And it resulted in Donald Trump winning.
And like, I'm super interested to see what the next election is going to be, because. And, like, I keep thinking, and, like, every day, I swear to God, every day, the dialogue in The Dark Knight gets much more relevant. It's that scene where Joker is like, it's the climax scene of Joker hanging upside down, and Joker's basically saying, since you have opened the floodgates, and now Gotham's going to be overrun with fucking psychos and shit. And I feel like since Donald Trump has gotten president, we've just opened the floodgates to a tsunami of the most weird. Like there's an actual possibility where our three presidential candidates could be Donald Trump, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Oprah fucking Winfrey. That's actual possibility.
She gave a good speech. That is not enough.
That is not. Yes, that is not
celebrities
enough.
Running for president got us into this mess. They will not get us out.
Do we not remember the 80s with Ronald Reagan? Look at what he did.
She would be better than Donald Trump, but I still don't want another celebrity in there. I want a more qualified woman like Elizabeth Warren or something.
Elizabeth Warren, yeah. Yeah.
Even though she probably doesn't want to run.
It's probably not, but I hope she does.
It's just a weird mirror universe.
You mentioned how lines from The Dark Knight resonate with 2017. Oh shit, now 2018.
Yes.
And it's like, you remember when Trump first got elected and like he was doing like all the
Bane speech?
All the onboarding for the job, and it's like all these like Curb Your Enthusiasm style photos where he's just like looking into the middle distance, like all bombed out,
yes.
like he's just realizing that this is like a public service job.
Yes.
And it's like that to me is like the line where the Joker's like, I'm like a dog chasing cars.
I wouldn't know what to do with one. I caught it. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that's exactly what he was doing.
That's exactly who Trump is.
Yeah, I don't even think he thought he was going to win. He thought he was going to cash in, and then he was going to shout on Twitter about how it was rigged, Hillary cheated, and that's why she won. And then he was going to get like a bunch of cushy guest spots on Fox News for the next 10 years talking about how they fucked up, and he would have done it so much better. But he had to actually put his money where his mouth is, and now everybody knows he sucks.
I seriously think that he did this on a personal dare. Or
just like he was at the same party as Paul Ryan.
Yes. And someone shouted, Paul, you should be president. Donald Trump's like, I'd be a better president than Paul Ryan. I'm going to run him.
He was a weird 55-year-old man at a college party.
Yes.
And they both dared each other. And they came back a couple years later, still drunk, and just like, oh, fuck, what did we do?
This actually happened.
You got to be like slightly out of your mind to become president. Even though like Obama was the most like sound mind president that I can remember well. It's a terrible job to take. You make
Yeah.
$400,000 a year, and it's not even like.
And you age 5 years for every normal human year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody in the world
I'm
hates
sure-
you, no matter how good of a job you do.
Yeah, I'm sure Trump is just going to be like a pumpkin in late November by the end of this. But like Obama, he came in as like this, this clean cut young dude with like all black hair, and then by like 2 years in, he was
all gray.
He was all gray.
He was
had
kind of
bags
slumping
under
when he
his eyes.
walked. Yeah.
He still like carried himself right, but he was like he was clearly falling apart. Look at what the presidency did to Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
He just decomposed. He was already dead before they shot him.
It's a weird thing, and and like I was when the election was going on, I was talking to my friend who is a hardcore right-wing guy.
Oh boy.
And so I was like, I can't remember when was the last good Republican president, and like he
Lincoln.
said, he writes, and so my friend said Reagan. I laughed out loud. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Hey,
Reagan?
tell that to the Taliban.
I'm like, Reagan was the last good, and like
Tell that to the mentally ill.
yeah, right. And and history is now repeating itself for like a third time.
What if Ronald Reagan was worse?
We went through this in the 50s. And then we had that period in the in the 60s where like there was a civil unrest and people were like actually challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
And then we had that false period in the 70s where it's like flowers and rainbow, but across the ocean people are dying for no reason.
Yeah.
Dwight Eisenhower brought up one of like the most important ideas of the 20th century is the military-industrial complex.
Oh, yeah,
in his speech.
Yeah, like a lot of like the military brass from World War II who like came out of it afterward actually like spilled a lot of shit on the military industrial complex, which I respected a lot, but like it's gotten even worse.
Yeah, and like it's gotten,
especially in San Diego with contractors that make weapons.
Lockheed Martin owns my right testicle.
Yeah, and
Northrop
legally.
Grumman, General Atomics. I applied for General Atomics and didn't get in because I want to solder stuff.
Yeah.
And like there was this weird thing during when Bush was in office, where like after September 11th, where like if you challenge the government and their stance on like Iraq and the war, you are a fucking villain and you are fucking and you're fucking vilified.
Because
and
they
had
fucking weaponize support our troops rhetoric, and to the point where you can't sympathize with combat veterans without saying, hey, maybe war is bad. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this, or else you hate the troops. And like, I have no problem with the troops. In fact, I don't want them to be sent off to get
for
killed.
war for no reason.
I don't want them to be sent off to kill a bunch of brown people and then also get blown up themselves and
come back fucked up to a society that basically throws them away as soon as they come back. You've done your duty.
We got our use out of you. Go live on the street, I guess.
America, and like that.
So I'm not on board with that. And so I guess that means I hate the troops now, I guess.
And like that whole thing is like eerily parallels the 70s with the Vietnam War, which was the exact same thing of like, how dare you question what we're doing in Vietnam? It's like,
and then soldiers,
the government doesn't even know what we're doing in Vietnam.
And then soldiers come back and say, I
don't even know what I was doing there.
The soldiers come back and they say like, we shouldn't be doing this. And they're like, you're un-American. You hate the troops. I'm like, bitch, I am the troops.
Yeah, you're the one that went over and like sacrificed your sanity for this country. You come back and you're like, I don't think we did the right thing over there. Fuck you. You're not American. You don't get to wear the flag, and shit like
Fly
that.
out to Vietnam and tell that to my legs.
Yeah, it's a weird, and
they're still out in the field somewhere.
And like, I think the idea of patriotism, American patriotism especially,
it's jingoism.
It's jingoism. It's kind of a racist rhetoric because this is the thing that bothers me about us as a country is we are quick to have sympathy for other people's tragedies.
Oh yeah.
Like the Holocaust is a tragic it's a tragic thing.
And like
we talk more about the Holocaust than we do the fact that when like colonists first found this country, people don't realize there are whole civilizations that have been wiped out of existence.
Yeah.
Think about that. Whole civilizations have been wiped out of existence so that you could salute a flag.
Yeah, and mentioning the Holocaust, we talk about how horrible the Holocaust was, but we never fucking talk about the fact that, thousands of Jewish refugees were fleeing the Holocaust, and we turned them away.
We turned them away.
Another one, the Armenian genocide that the U.S. government denies.
Or even as World War II was going on, we put Japanese people in their own concentration camps here in America. That was the thing that we did. People forget about that. You know what I mean?
I remember reading somewhere that Hitler and the Nazi Party literally took inspiration from the American treatment of the Native American population for their ethnic cleansing.
Yeah,
our hands are definitely not clean.
And then the fucked up thing is, after we slaughtered whole civilizations of the Native Americans, we brought over other civilizations from a foreign continent and enslaved them for over 200 and 300 years and built this country. And so people have
and now history books are referring to them as workers who were brought over here to help build the country. Instead of being forcibly worked to death.
We close to enslaved Chinese people to build our railroad system.
Yeah, exactly.
The working conditions, even for the time when there were close to no safety regulations on the job, even then the safety on that job, the working conditions on that job were just inexcusable even for the times.
And we're doing that now with the Latino community.
Yep.
It's eerily paralleling what we were going through in the 60s.
They're taking all the dirty jobs.
You get a 15-minute break. It's a 12-hour shift. You go out in the sun. Here's one umbrella.
You're not documented, so I'm going to pay you $5 an hour.
It's freaking. It's
also
insane.
You could die, and I wouldn't care.
And people have the gall to call them un-American and to call them illegal aliens. When you know what your country was founded on? Illegal aliens.
Yeah,
you're the people who fled a country. It's the exact same thing.
And last time I checked, the illegal immigrants from Mexico aren't killing the native population.
Exactly. They aren't just wiping out entire civilizations.
They just come over.
A lot of Mexican people are descended from the native population of America.
Yeah.
It's freaking. It's so
they deserve
eerie
to be here more than white people.
How full circle that has come around. It's insane. And so whenever I see people who have this die-hard patriotism for America, I can't help but wonder, do you even know what what you're celebrating? You know what I mean? It's just a fucked up rhetoric.
Yeah, I was, and it's a weird thing to reconcile, but we were all raised with that kind of patriotic stuff. So I still at my core I do love the ideal.
Yes.
But I've grown up and learned that that's not the reality.
Yes.
I still want that to be the reality, but we got to do a lot of our fucking dirty laundry first before we can even come close.
We don't even like talking about the small mistakes, such as J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh yeah.
COINTELPRO. Nobody even talks about J. Edgar Hoover now, and how how he systematically destroyed Malcolm X's organization and tapped phones on and systematically destroyed.
Yeah, they thought the Black Panthers were communists.
The Black Panther Party. This is what's fucked up about this country. The Black Panther Party is labeled as a domestic terrorist group. The Ku Klux Klan is not.
Yeah, think
about that.
I know that one of those groups did public lynchings and the other didn't.
The other one, the Black Panther Party created what is known as 6 to 6 in the after school program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no one talks about that.
They straight up ran close to real schools for kids. They ran community run hospitals and shit. They had ambulance services, not an actual ambulance, but they would move people to either a real hospital or one of these Black Panther hospitals that they had. They provided tons of community service, but I guess they were just scary enough that we could declare them,
because they took a strong stance against what America thought was cool by now. They're now labeled a domestic terrorist group.
So there's I saw some group in San Diego. I think they're calling themselves San Diego New Black Panthers or something like that. And with the homeless issue, with the hepatitis A spreading, they set up cleaning stations at Petco Park and rented out that that park area.
Yeah.
For the homeless to go there and clean up. Yeah.
That's cool.
You know, and like stuff like that doesn't get talked about on the news day. You know, like that's the first time I'm hearing about shit like that. You know what I mean?
It doesn't
And
get talked about on the news. They'll talk about like, oh yeah, the homeless are spreading hepatitis A. You need to get injected and all that.
I can't count on both hands the number of times I've seen like a story on the news and they were like, anyway, the homeless population in Pacific Beach is down this week. I'm like, oh, thank God, they're dealing with the problem. They're helping these people find homes. It's like the cops went in and just poked them with batons until they went somewhere else. It's like, oh fuck.
And California is good to the homeless.
Except it's really not.
It's not. And like people,
let's just harass them until they go somewhere else. That's solving the problem.
And like most of our homeless people are like veterans or like actual fucking people that the government experimented on. You know, like that's an actual thing, you know.
Yeah, MK Ultra.
The MK Ultra project is an actual thing. It's not something that like Jason Bourne made up. That's an actual thing that like actually happened. They would like the government
ruined people.
The government would literally snatch people off the street and experiment them on for years and then dump them back.
Yeah, I also think that like the homeless are misrepresented too. They're a very diverse group of people, and like a lot of them are of sound mind. Some of them even choose to be on the streets to leaving like certain abusive situations or whatever.
Yeah, and it's a fucked up thing of like how like they marginalize the that you know the group to look a certain way so that we feel a certain way about them, you know. And like they don't dig into like why they're there, what they're doing there, how come they can't
they're trying
leave.
to like be responsible. Like a lot of homeless people have a phone, and like from one of my friends who lives downtown, he doesn't think that the homeless people are exactly the problem. He saw like hipsters like walking their dogs and letting them poop on the street, which Hep A is also spread through dogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but like I feel like, you know, the powers that be have kind of like done a great job of shifting the perspective on homeless people to be like, oh yeah, every person who lives on the street, that's a personal failing on their part. But when I see a person living on the street, every single person I see who's homeless, I see that as evidence of a failing of our society.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That should not be a situation that somebody's in a developed society.
There should be like rent-controlled housing. There should be like micro units for people to stay in.
We could take the tiniest fucking sliver out of our insane military spending and use it to subsidize housing for the homeless, because we have more empty houses and apartments than we do homeless people in this country.
What's crazy?
We could do that with just the tiniest sliver of our military budget, but no, we gotta blow more of our people up, blow more of their people up, and it'll be great, grand old time.
What's even crazier with the military budget is pretty much most of it is spent on tech and weapons. Like actual soldiers don't really get that good of accommodation.
It's not spent on care for the military. It's not spent on.
It's definitely not spent on care because so many of them are living on the fucking street.
And like we spend more on buying the biggest gun than buying the biggest textbook and fixing our fixing our educational system,
and
which is broken, which is shit,
like,
by the way. And that's why you have so many of these college dropouts and high school dropouts, because this education system that we have is total fucking shit.
Yeah, and all the money that we put into military occupation of these countries that, let's be real, we destabilized in the first place. All the money that we sink into military occupation, if we sunk even just half of that money into helping put those countries back together as like and not like just installing a new government that serves our interests like we do in fucking South America all the time, but like actually trying to like rebuild the infrastructure, helping them develop their own democratic government. Like if we just sunk half the money we spend on military engagement into that, we wouldn't have any problems in those countries.
Yeah, like
this is like the worst example of military waste. There's this 36,000 acre property in the Northern California desert, like near Nevada. It's just filled with tanks and armored vehicles,
Jesus
and
Christ.
helicopters, like all sorts of stuff that is no longer in use.
Yeah.
It's just completely irrelevant technology at this point.
Yeah, it's just there.
Like, remember during the 60s where, like, there was...
I was there, so yeah.
Yes. I mean, yes. We were all there.
We were all alive in the 60s.
We were all there,
yeah.
Yes. No, but, like, I mean, during the 60s, there was a sense of... the 60s was a trial decade, but, like, there was a sense of progress.
JFK was president.
And, like, during the backdrop of the civil rights movement, you you had the fucking space program and we put a man on the moon.
That shit was that shit,
You know?
just like that shit should beam a message into everybody's head
And
that,
like
hey,
we just,
anything is possible.
And like we just sort of forgot about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was insane. Like the guy who invented the television said that like everything was crap, and then he watched like it was a waste of his invention, and he regretted inventing it. And then he saw the moon landing. He's like, okay, that's worth it.
You know what I mean?
That makes it
and
all
like
worth
that
it.
took place in the same decade as like, you know, Martin Luther King giving that speech, you know, at the Washington Monument.
Yep.
Or like Malcolm X, you know, giving his speeches and stuff.
Yeah.
Or like Rosa Parks being on the bus and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know,
and then the CIA killed
and then
killed
CIA
MLK.
and then the CIA killed MLK and Malcolm X, and then and then we have the 70s with the Vietnam War of like this like decade long needless struggle of like a war that
seen
like
the Ken Burns
our like
Vietnam?
ass kicked. No, I have not.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, we were in a decade-long quagmire where we had no exit strategy, and we were sending our young people over and not caring for them when they got back. And boy, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then we had the 80s, which was this sort of like, let's return back to when we were great, which was in the 50s, which was a social, which 50s
was not that great.
An economic disaster of a fucking decade.
Yeah, it was a boom specifically for, you know, white people who...
For the guys in Mad Men. That's who there was...
White people who wore suits and, you know, had a nuclear family. And, like, yeah, Reagan was like banking really hard on that image, being a bankable thing, and it worked out because a lot of economically insecure and like paranoid white people said, "Oh, we can go back to that thing that never actually existed except for people like my dad."
And then the war on drugs happened, the war on poverty happened, the war on crime happened. You know what I mean?
All of those are just, you know, war on black people.
Yeah, that's all that is. You know, and it's insane. You know that like this country has like such a fear of progress, so much so that now we
always want to say, let's go back to when things were good. It's like the time
When
you're
was it
talking
good?
about.
Yeah.
The time you're talking about things weren't good. Let's create a time when things were good and
It's
go to
fucked
that.
up that like the administration to a degree and like other politicians more care so much about the heroin epidemic when it affects mostly white people.
Yes.
And like
And
the
they
war on
focus-
drugs and the crack epidemic shaft at black people so much.
and they
But, like,
focus so much on the war on drugs and the war on the crack epidemic, which, you know, let's be real, they introduced the crack into the black communities, and that's
Yep.
why it's so to start this whole like war on drugs
Set 'em up and knock 'em
stuff
down.
like that, and so that gave them that gave the government them to go after.
A
you know?
government is never more powerful and dangerous than when they have a them.
You know,
Yeah,
that
the-
gave
the-
them. I gave a group to point to and go, these are the enemy. Let's take them down.
Even though you set them up to
Even
be
though-
the
yes.
them.
The punishment for like carrying crack or smoking and like distributing was so much worse than just like typical cocaine.
There was there was a story that happened that there was this party of like 10 black guys, and the cops came and they found like an ounce of weed, and they all got like jail time for like 10 months.
Jesus Christ.
And it's like you know what I mean? And like it's that kind of stuff that's just so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
didn't like crack have a 10-year minimum or something on the second or third
Yeah.
offense? Yeah.
And like there are like black people, you know, like black men in jail for like 10 years for like a small drug charge.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Harvey Weinstein is probably
He's getting some very serious therapy at a super swanky resort.
Yes.
It's not a therapy center. It's a fucking resort.
Some kid that shot
with
up
him and Kevin Spacey.
You know, some kid. There was a kid.
Oh, you're talking about the affluenza thing?
Yeah, there was a kid who like shot up a school and killed someone, and he got off because of this phrase that his lawyer coined out of bullshit.
He drove. I think he was driving drunk or some other kind of reckless driving.
Yeah,
and he hit another car and killed a bunch of people.
And
they were saying like, no, it's not his fault.
He has affluenza. He's so rich that he doesn't know what right and wrong is.
Yeah,
it's like, that's why he should be in jail.
He's a poster child for like white people getting away.
Yeah.
Yes.
The entire argument was like, oh yeah, because of how he was brought up, he doesn't understand that actions have consequences. Bitch, let's teach him.
Yes, exactly. You know, and you know, you know, our prisons and jails aren't this, you know, that they were birthed to be this sort of like rehabilitation type of thing, and they're not. It's just like it's just like a death sentence.
There's countries in Europe that like have actually shown what a rehabilitation prison is like, and all the people in America like clutch their pearls and say like treating criminals like people. That's insane. Like, is it supposed to rehabilitate them or not?
Yeah,
Drug offenders shouldn't be locked up.
Yeah.
I think for like rape and murder, like
definitely.
So
Like,
rape
put
and murder,
those-
murder, child molestation.
yeah,
lock
they
them
should
in
go
a
to
cell.
prison. Like maybe there's a way to release them earlier
Yes.
with rehabilitation. Maybe they don't have to be in there for life because that costs the taxpayer money in the end. when
Yeah,
you think
but
about
drug offenses, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, if you, I think we're all on the same page here that if you look at the socioeconomic, paperwork, like the paper trail, like the U.S. government is definitely like you can lay anything drug crisis related at the feet of the U.S. government, but also the response, is like there are countries in Europe that are showing like if you treat drugs as a public health issue rather than a crime issue,
Yes.
things work out better.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't put people in prison for being addicted to drugs. You put them in a hospital, help them through rehab, and then you put them back into society. That's how it works out. But then America says, "But where are we going to get all the black people to put in prison?"
Exactly.
We need people to work for 5 cents an
Yes,
hour.
we need to, it's an actual thing that the prisons loan out prison workers to work, to like build big companies, buildings and shit like that.
Yeah.
Oh, the big one that everybody found out about was firefighters making $2 a day or an hour or something fighting fires.
risking their fucking
lives
lives
to fight fires, and the fucked up thing about it is like there was like 5 fires in Los Angeles. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And like that's fucking.
And
that's
they were
insane.
sent out there.
And like I originally thought that like, oh, that's cool, they're learning a skill, and like the prisoners at least take pride in it from what I've come across, but also they have trouble actually getting into fire departments when they get out because they have a felony record.
Yeah, because a felony is a death sentence on a job application.
Yeah, and so if you're a person of color who like gets shot up on like a small drug charge, gets tossed in jail, and you come back out, 2 years later, you can't get a fucking library card, you can't get can't get an ID,
you can't vote,
you can't vote, you can't get a job.
Yeah. So anybody who got prison time or any kind of felony charge for marijuana possession or anything like that in any of the states where it's legal now needs to have their fucking record expunged, taken out of prison, probably get reparation pay for all the years that they were in prison, and just like be able to start over clean slate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
also probably just get a subsidy for starting your own pot business because like white people are cashing in on that, so you should too.
Yeah, it's fucking insane, man. And it's an insane time that we live in, and I'm an optimist at heart, so I hope it gets better.
Yeah.
But the sky's looking pretty gray, on the horizon, and this new administration isn't doing anything. This is an administration that like actively attacks education.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it actively attacks mathematics programs. And
They
space
put
programs.
Kellyanne Conway in charge of education.
You know what I mean?
That's like saying, hey, we not only don't care about education, we actively hate it.
We go fuck yourself, smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a tragic state that we are living ourselves in.
Yeah.
It's a bad time,
The thing that really blew my mind about the prison industrial complex is like, this is shit that I already know, but hearing somebody like openly admit it and say it like it's a good thing was pretty crazy. Like I don't remember who it was. It was like a sheriff or possibly a governor or something. I don't remember, but like he was doing a press junket and he was talking about how like we can't let out the well-behaved criminals because like they're the ones who we can put to work. It's like, yeah, we're supposed to let them out because of good behavior. It's like we're letting all the good ones out, the ones that we use. And like he's saying, like, yeah, the ones we use, the good ones that we use to wash our cars. Like that's the reality. That's what we're doing. And that's why we can't let well-behaved prisoners out. Because we use them. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's such
he
a
just
weird...
openly admitted that. Like, it's like, see, now don't you get it? This is why I'm doing this. I'm so smart.
You can make, like, pressing license plates, like, a minimum wage job, and then, like, save the money.
Which is still not
from,
much money. It's easy.
Yeah, you could save the money of, like, keeping somebody locked up. You release them earlier, and they could still take menial jobs. They'll probably take anything they could get.
And, like... Yeah, like one of the factors of why like prison recidivism is so huge is because you go back out into the world and you have fucking nothing.
You have nothing,
and you can't get a job. So if you work a minimum wage job in prison, at least you'll have like a nest egg saved up when you get out. It won't be much, but it'll be at least something to like rent a place for a while. Because if you're economically desperate, you're more likely to steal shit again.
And then like
because you have to.
And then like even if you get out and you get a job and you get like a minimum wage job, you're going nowhere. You're staying stagnant. Like most of the people who are my coworkers at my job have to work 2 jobs in order to like keep up with their cell phone bill payment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, and like they can't move out and they can't establish a sense of independence because like a 1-bedroom studio apartment is like $10,000 a week. You know what I mean?
It's fucking San Diego.
It's fucking insane. You know.
I wonder why we have so many homeless people.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder why. You know, it's just a bad.
What I thought was cool. I hope this like sticks around or is implemented elsewhere. Near the Bay Area, prisoners were taught how to do web development, coding, which is an actual skill that they could transition in the real world. Yeah. You can get work like through the internet. You don't necessarily have to work for a company, so you don't have to tell them your record really.
Yeah. The only reason it's a bummer is because like anytime that there is like a practical like job training thing in prisons to like help people like have a life again when they get out, it's news, and it really shouldn't be. That should just be the thing that is in prisons.
It's you know, and you know, I think that we are preaching like the next generation, and like this sort of ties back to like my first point is like we are preaching this next generation, this like sheen in this bubble of like fineness, and this bubble of like, you know, we're all fine here, you know, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain that's actually pulling all the strings and making
but
everything
also pay
worse.
attention to him because he's having a shit fit on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, and like we are bringing up a generation of like conflicted kids who are not gonna know what stance they're on or what place they have in this world because it's such a shitty, you know, predicament and environment that they're growing up in. You know, now.
Yeah. And like the crazy thing is, like, you know, when kids don't have like a clear perspective or a clear like stance, and they feel uncertain about the way the world is, they are just prime targets for neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
Like so many like kids who were just like, you know, a little bit disillusioned when they were 13 or 14 grow up, and by the time they're 18, they're Nazis.
They're freaking neo-Nazis.
Yeah, because the neo-Nazis know how to pounce on that shit and convert it into, hey, you know why you feel this way? Jews.
You know?
Yeah, like the Charlottesville killer, that guy, he was a video gamer and like beat up his mom and was rejected by the military.
Yeah, exactly. Prime target for these fucking online neo-Nazi recruiters.
But yeah, people reported that the seeds were there even from high school. Like he was fascinated with Nazis at that point even.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think there was a thing on there was a news story about this guy on Twitter who was who like actively preached Nazism and stuff like that. And
people were like,
yeah,
sure,
and
he doesn't mean
like,
it.
Yeah, and people were like, he's fine. You know what I mean? And you know, that's the kind he like mowed a swastika in his lawn. Like that's the type
Jesus
of
Christ.
that's the type of guy that we have to go after.
That's not just horrible. That's also dumb.
Yeah, like that's the type of guy. That's the type of person that needs rehabilitation and needs to be sat down and taught what exactly that, you know, because
they were at a vulnerable point when they were younger. Somebody with a fucked up ideology pounced on that shit and tried to like twist it into being like literally the most hateful thing you could be, and it worked. So that shit needs to be rehabilitated and dealt with.
Yeah. You know, like there are these kids who are coming up and they're super angry.
Yeah.
And they don't have a place to put that anger. And so here comes Joe Nazi, who's like, I have a place for you to put that anger. You see those
lots and lots of anger. Put it
Jews
right
and
here.
blacks over there. Those are who you should be angry about. Those are the ones that's why you're so mad.
And then out come the tiki torches.
Yeah, and out come the tiki torches and the mass shootings and the Hail Hitlers and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like there were actual people marching for Trump who were calling out Hail Hitler. Like that was an actual thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Remember when Trump won and Richard Spencer, who was just now becoming like a public figure because of this. Shocker, Trump wins and then a Nazi becomes a public figure. That's weird. But like he was doing this speech to all of his, you know, people, and he just said, no joke, at the end of the speech, he just like raised his hand, not quite in a Nazi salute, but kind of in a Nazi salute, because he's subtle. And he said, Hail Trump, "Hail victory, hail our people," and then everybody got up and did the Nazi salute. Like, he was trying to be sly about it, and they were all just like, "Yeah, we know what you're saying, Nazis."
Yeah, I get you, Joel. You know, it's a fucking.
I
weird
remember
thing.
coming across a news piece about a website that's like Twitter, but pretty much for white supremacists by white supremacists.
So Twitter.
Well, the thing was, Twitter was actually doing the right thing in deleting white supremacist accounts, so they fled Twitter and made their own social media service.
Oh, it's like the ending of Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah.
God, it's just a fucking. It's a mess. I don't. You know, we are literally living in a dystopian novel.
Yep.
Like
we're living in the boring part that they gloss over in the first couple chapters.
Yeah, and then we get to
and
Mad
then
Max.
and then one of our kids will be like always staring off into the middle distance and thinking about stuff, and that one will be the protagonist because they're boring.
And we fucked up the planet beyond repair almost.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're gonna have to like spend trillions on climate reduction.
But all the rich people will get off the planet now. Like, wait a minute, is this a young adult novel or is this Elysium?
Yeah, and there was a speech in a flick called Tomorrowland, I think.
Oh yeah.
Where I think it's Hugh Laurie's character.
Yeah.
Who explains that like why they took Tomorrowland away from the mass public is because they saw on the horizon the shit that the world was coming to, and that's why all these dystopian novels came out.
Yeah,
because they're like, hey, fuckers,
they
if
were
you
like,
don't pay attention, they were like, this is what's going to happen.
They were like trying to like beam like images of this horrific dystopian
and people
future.
ate it up as like great pop culture, like, oh, this is cool. No, you idiots, that's what's going to happen.
That's why there's apocalyptic video games.
And then eventually, like, it went from just thinking that it was cool and putting it in our culture to like, you know, the cycle of like culture and reality feeding into each other. Eventually, we all just accepted that was how it was going to be, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, there are things I don't like about that movie, but like the core theme like that is. I thought that was pretty dope.
Yeah,
like, how they handled that.
I thought that was like one of the smartest things I saw that year.
Yeah,
of like that speech of like, we're telling you what's happening, and you keep eating it up as canon fodder, and now you become stagnant to think, just like you said.
And now you say it's, and
that's
now,
just an inevitability. I can't.
You
really
went
do
from
anything
you
to
went
change
from thinking it was entertaining to thinking that it's a foregone conclusion for the reality.
Yeah,
and that's
and you won't dare to do anything new about it.
Yeah, like. There were parts of that movie where I was like, yeah, this movie's kind of up its own ass. But
yes.
Like, that.
Did you see Snowpiercer?
I did see Snowpiercer. Yes.
I love Snowpiercer.
I like it a lot. I think the message is a bit heavy-handed, but I mean,
everybody agrees on that.
I think like everything from like just like the core filmmaking to like the kind of themes that they're trying to convey.
Sort of like,
everything about it is heavy-handed. So
it's
like
sort of like
it isn't accidentally heavy-handed because like the filmmakers didn't know subtlety. They were definitely going out to make a heavy-handed movie.
It's sort of like the ending of like Pixar's WALL-E, where like the end they go, oh, so you don't get the message? Here, I have a baseball bat with the message ingrained on it. I'm gonna hit you over the head with it.
Everything from like the visual style of the movie to the themes was a punch in the face. So it was definitely not being subtle on any level.
But yeah, you know, and like if we're not careful, we're gonna end up being, you know, living in that sort of reality of like the one train going.
What if capitalism was a train?
The world, you know.
So I like the director of Snowpiercer. He makes movies that have like a heavy-handed message, but ultimately good in the end. Like he did Okja for Netflix.
I'm honestly like not against the idea of being heavy-handed as long as like that's what you're trying to do.
He also did. He's Korean, so he wrote the screenplay for The Host.
Oh yeah.
The horror movie with the monster, the sea monster.
But like Snowpiercer, like on top of like all the other shit that I love about that movie, at the end, like right at the end when Chris Evans' character is like doing like his monologue with the other guy, like that is like I feel like that's like right up there with Quint's Indianapolis monologue from Jaws.
Okay, yeah.
It's just like it's so disarming and it sucks you in and then it's horrifying.
Yeah,
it's like like those two are like two peas in a pod. I just love both of those monologues. They're great.
Yeah, I tend to like. I like films that have a message if it's not done sloppily, you know,
if you have a bunch of contradictory shit in the movie, like that's more upsetting to me than not being subtle. Like I'm all on board if you're heavy-handed, if you've got like a straightforward point and you don't like mix shit up and like contradict yourself.
Like the other day I watched the third Purge movie, which is a bad movie, I think. And then but you know, like people gave it a pass because it's a because it's not subtle about its message, but it's so sloppy in the way that it constructs its message. So it kind of, to me, if you have a film that has a message that I agree with, that's cool. If you perform it sloppily, I'm still going to slack points off of it.
Yeah.
What was almost stupider than the Purge movies was the rumor that there was going to be an actual Purge in America.
Oh my God. Did people actually believe that?
People were spreading that rumor. I don't know if anybody actually believed it.
We already have a real life purge. It's called Florida.
Crocodiles and methods warm.
That is basically the purge capital of our country is Florida.
Yeah, but like
Bath salts originated there, or at least got popular first.
If you watch the first Purge movie, it like
I like the first Purge movie.
Yeah, but like
it's
the thing
smart.
is,
it
like,
doesn't bang you over the head as much.
It is a pretty decent movie, but like the thing is, it introduces this concept, and then like I don't really think it seizes on it as much as it could.
Sure,
like it's mostly just a remake of Panic Room.
Sure, yes.
Like I feel like even just like a shift in tone would change it a lot. Like if you redo the Purge instead of like being straightforward, like no irony to it, like this is the future. If you go back and you do it as like a dark comedy, and then like that even like gives you a little bit more license to go balls out with like the satire and the social commentary, because it's a dark comedy and like, oh yeah, what if we were just all A-okay with Murder Night?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a pretty crazy thing. It's like people are calling in the radio, it's like, oh, hey, are you excited for the Purge? It's like, yeah, I can't wait to kill my boss. It's like, yeah, 12 hours until Purge.
Yeah, like, and...
You're listening to 93.1 The Taint.
And like, that speaks to why, like, my favorite film of last year was a Get Out. Because it does that thing I'm talking about, is that like it has a message, but it's subtle about it. You know what I mean? It's subtle. It creeps up on you, and it's smart about its message.
Yeah,
it's not just saying racism is bad.
Yeah, it could easily have just been that simple message, and everybody would have been okay with it.
It could be bright,
but it went in. It like rolled its sleeves up and dug into all that
said,
shit.
Let's like actually dig into these themes and and like examine them. Systemically.
Yeah, and it's like a really small moment in the movie, but like one of my favorite things from that movie was like when he's just walking the grounds with like the dad.
Yes.
And he's saying like, "Oh yeah, I would have voted for Obama for a third term." It's like
shit that like
yeah,
your dad,
you're a horrible racist monster, but you can still in earnest say that you would have voted for Obama for a third term. It's like, yeah, a lot of people think that they're off the hook because they say shit like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah, they're not.
Yeah, spoiler alert. But I'm glad he actually does get out in the end.
Yes.
I think it could have gone the other way where he was like actually convicted of the murder.
Yeah, that was actually the ending that he shot, but that was the ending that he shot and was going to release, and then stuff like the Trayvon Martin stuff happened, and like all those unarmed black shootings happen, and so he's like, okay, get the message.
What if it ended out mostly okay for him?
Yeah, and so he
let's
said, okay,
change the narrative here.
Yeah.
There's still like a ton of shit that character has to deal with in the aftermath. He is going to be fucked up forever.
Yeah,
because
he's gonna
of
be
that.
fucked up forever.
But at least he made it out.
Yes, at least he made it out.
He got out, if you will.
It was a
win
makes
for
the
us.
title make more sense.
Yes.
He got out.
And so, and like that's why I think films like that and Wonder Woman and the upcoming Black Panther, hopefully, are like inspiring films. Because like they are these gems that like hint at a brighter future. You know what I mean? Like the cool thing about the Wonder Woman movie is that it's so earnest, and that like this isn't a female character who is doing something out of a society intuition of like motherhood, like most female characters are.
because she doesn't have that kind of societal pressure because she's living on an island of all women, and she was like pretty much the only kid.
Yeah, and so she goes out and does things because it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean?
Which is what heroes should do.
Which is what heroes
they should be flawed and they should make mistakes and shit, but at their core they should just want to do good things because they're good things.
Yeah, and like and that's why I think like a film like Black Panther has got like all the potential to be powerful, because of our country has a history of like condemning black people as like this poor rundown. I mean, like look at the films that like the industry makes about black people. You get stuff like 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight, which are great movies, but they are very much like a black struggle movie.
Yeah,
you know?
don't forget things are terrible for black people.
Yeah,
it's just like Moonlight also like kind of overlaps here, but like movies about gay people. It's like, hey, things are terrible for gay people, and then you die. And it's like those movies aren't for gay people. They're for straight people to feel better about themselves for saying they enjoyed it.
And so that's why I think a film like Black Panther is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because here you have a film about in the context of the Marvel universe, it is the most technically advanced city ever.
Yeah, and like,
there's nothing like it. It's cut off from civilization. This wasn't a city or a country. This wasn't a country that was colonized by the Brits and got taught how to build an infrastructure. This was a city of black Africans who from inception created their own utopia.
Yeah. And like there's like a lot of fascinating shit to unpack about like the publication history of Black Panther, because like it was created by a bunch of white guys. Mostly Jewish guys, but like still a bunch of white guys, and like they were pretty much thinking to themselves like, what would be like the ideal for black people, and like so there is like kind of a messy like history to it, but it still creates like this idea of like what if there was an African country that was completely self-sufficient, was never annexed or colonized, was never touched by slavery, and just was able to thrive on its own. And so, like, it is weird where it came from, but it's a cool idea regardless of its origins.
So something that's sort of in the middle between these two ideas is something that it's almost become a trope on TV, the black police chief, how white people toss that role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The like angry black police chief and stuff like that. Yeah. It's and like there was this weird thing, which is another reason why I don't think fondly of the films from the 80s, is there was this weird thing in like films in the 80s which bled over to the 90s and bled over to the 2000s, is like this idea of like they had this there was this gag of I think it's the first time I saw it was in Risky Business, where there was this gag of let's hire a prostitute, and the prostitute turns out to be a black guy, transgender, and it's played for like a gag, and it sends like this messy, weird message.
It sends a lot of weird, messy messages. It sends like a lot of weird
messages, and they did that in like 40-year-old version with like Steve Carell, and they're like,
fuck, that's right, they
we
did do
hired
that.
a prostitute for you, to lose your virginity with, and it's a black trans gay guy, and he freaks out and shit like that, the seeds are planted in that.
Yeah, it's the idea that
systemically runs over. And
it's the idea that like trans people, especially trans people of color, are there as a joke, or as something specifically to make you uncomfortable, not as like their own people. Fuck
and then
that.
It starts the sort of like the sort of like underpinning of the masculinity of like the black male, and that's why you see like all these films about black men getting beat down by society and stuff like that, and it paints them as like these angry people, and so like that like subconsciously gets into the heads of like other people, and that's how they see and that's how they see it, and that's why I hope that a film like Black Panther can like shed light on stuff like this is like this is a race of people who have transcended the sort of oppressive nature that comes with their race and have made something beautiful, and I hope that is what that film is inherently about,
Yeah.
So I'm praying out hope that like Marvel let the director do what he wanted to do.
Yeah, because like Ryan Coogler's the one directing, right? Yeah. So as long as they like didn't fuck with him too much and just let him do his thing for the most part, I think the turnout is gonna be solid.
And it's good to see a black film with an all-star ensemble black cast.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! The cast is crazy.
That isn't a slavery film, or that isn't a film that takes place in the projects or stuff like that.
The opposite of the project.
Yeah, the opposite of the project.
The best civilization in the world.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing. So,
and like I think there's only like 2 named white characters in it.
Yeah, it's like
Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis.
Yes, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, and everybody else just black, and it's awesome. It's great.
I'm down.
And like that's why I have hope for the Mulan film that Disney is doing too, because like
they actually put Asian people in it. They cleared that bar. They managed to do it.
Like it's Braveheart, but with but with the Asian culture. That's fucking badass.
They did say. I think they said that they were going to take out all the musical numbers, which I don't like that part, but I'm still
like
on
the
board
music
for it.
are like amazing. But yeah,
Yeah.
you know, like it's Braveheart, but with Asian people, and that's going to be like a mainstream American, you know, film that like Americans can see.
Hopefully
you know?
they don't brutally torture Mulan to death at the
Hopefully.
end.
There was a controversy. I don't know if you guys read about this, but Disney's making an film about Aladdin.
Oh yeah.
And there's a
And
controversy.
they painted a bunch of white extras
they
brown.
hired a bunch of white extras and painted them brown. And like even when they were casting the movie, they were like, we can't find any Indian. And like, there's a whole genre
so
of
many of
film
them.
in that called Bollywood.
Yeah.
Pick any one of those.
Yeah, and there's people here, you just don't fucking hire them.
Yes.
Except for here, where you have a golden opportunity to hire them, and you still don't.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, I could think of some Indian stand-up comics who have kind of taken off.
Yeah.
That some of them would be able to pull off like a more serious role, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, not Indian, Pakistani, but Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah.
Like, he did The Big,
Big
Sick.
Sick, which is a fucking great movie.
Yeah, it's
and
a
I hope
great
he gets
movie,
nominated.
and he does like, you know, great, like he has a great range in there. He does, you know, comedy obviously, and then he does like a lot of heavy drama shit, and
drama
he's
shit.
really good in
He's
that.
fucking
So,
amazing, yeah.
Yeah, he should
Hari-
do more stuff. He should be allowed to do more stuff. He should
Hari
have more
Kondabolu
opportunities.
is an Indian
Oh, yeah, Hari Kondabolu, yeah.
stand-up comedian that I like, and I think he should get more acting roles.
Yeah, I do feel like he's another guy who could like also do drama really well.
Yeah. You know,
because
and-
his stand-up does get serious.
Yeah,
he tackles
it's like,
racism head on
his,
him.
his
and all
delivery
that.
is very dry, and like he tackles heavy issues.
Yeah.
And, like he takes this shit seriously, even when he's making a joke about it. So like, I do feel like he's another comedian who could like handle drama really well.
And like, there was a thing that I saw on YouTube. It was this old show that Jon Favreau did called Dinner for Five.
Oh yeah.
And there's a weird episode where it's J.J. Abrams, Stan Lee,
yeah.
Mark Hamill,
I know the one you're talking
and
about. yeah.
Kevin Smith, and they're all talking about Star Wars, and it's like kind of weird. But
Wasn't this like well before?
yeah,
Force
yeah,
Awakens?
like it's like
Yeah.
well before this was back when JJ was like first doing Lost. You know,
Oh,
it's
Jesus.
fucking weird. But there's another episode.
Bases loaded.
There's another episode where Jon Favreau's talking with a bunch of actors, and it's Faison Love from Friday, Sarah Silverman, Michael Rappaport, and Saffron Barrows, I think, from Deep Blue Sea, and they're talking about how
if your top credit is Deep Blue Sea, then yeah, you probably don't belong at the table.
and so they're talking about the casting process in Hollywood, and they bring up how the fact that the first person on the casting sheet is always going to be a white guy, white girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, because that's what your mind automatically thinks of when you read a script and think of the protagonist. Your mind automatically goes
because
to that
there have
image.
been so many of those that
Yeah,
it's hardwired.
Yeah, that it's the norm, and so I'm hoping with like these upcoming, you know, trendy pushes for diversity, you know, that they actually stick,
Yeah.
and they aren't just a trend that is used by the industry to sort of pat itself on the back, like, look, we gave an Oscar to a black guy,
well,
so
it's
we're cool.
Yeah, the industry is definitely going to do that no matter what. Like any small step towards progress, they're going to make a big deal out of it and pat themselves on the back. But I hope they just, you know, keep doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And like I think the only way we can really guarantee that is if we keep, you know, calling them out when they don't.
Yeah, same.
Because they're going to keep not doing it. Anyway, Aladdin.
Yeah. So, I don't know why they're making an Aladdin movie. It's kind of perfect the way it is. I'm sick of this whole new wave of that Disney is doing, which is sort of like slowly replacing the YA novel stuff, which I'm kind of grateful for because I was tired with it. But Aladdin, really?
Yeah, and like generally, like the whole wave of like remaking all their like Disney Renaissance animated films as live action, it just seems like sort of a backhanded insult to animation.
It smells like it's a backhanded to like animation and like
it's saying like, okay, all these movies that people loved when they were cartoons, but what if they were like real movies?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, animation. What if they were like actual movies?
That's
it's
what
like,
your like company was built on. You know?
And now you're kind of
backhanding
subtly
all of
shitting
them.
on it.
Like I saw the Jungle Book, which is an okay movie. You know, it's fine.
I heard that one was probably like the best of like the live action remakes.
It's the best of the ones. I think I've seen all of them. I've seen Maleficent. I've seen Alice in Wonderland, which is a fucking travesty.
Dude, like Maleficent, like it's such a mixed bag, but like I do I do tip my hat to
There's
them
some
for,
heavy themes in
for
that
like
movie.
the crazy left turns that they did
There's
in that
some
movie.
heavy themes.
Like,
You know,
it was not just a live action remake of Sleeping Beauty. It let's say okay, yeah, let's just say like the story you saw in the original movie was a lie. Here's the truth: the villain actually isn't all that bad and is sympathetic, and also her backstory is a not so subtle rape analogy.
Yeah, like that's a heavy fucking thing to throw in.
They throw so much.
When
shit
I
at the
watched
wall.
it, I was like, "Holy shit!" They went there.
Even if you don't think it's a good movie, you just have to respect.
You have to appreciate
the
that they
crazy
fucking went
chances
there.
took
That they
there.
went there. They said,
And
"Fuck it."
The crazy thing is Disney let them go.
Yeah,
there.
they let them go there. It's a weird, like,
That
it's
was
a deep.
insane.
That's a deep fucking theme. But yeah, you know, and
Just
like
to say that, like, this classic movie that kept the lights on at Disney, the story was a lie. Here's the truth. And also a not-so-subtle analogy for rape.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
The stuff they got away with in that movie.
It's
incredible.
It's deep-seated stuff. And, you know, now, you know, these new live-action, you know, animation stuff is now all fluff. Mostly, you know, like the Cinderella movie didn't really add anything. The Beauty and the Beast movie is one of my least favorite films of last year.
Yeah. What if the animation was just people looking bored, and what if the Beast, instead of having a cool like crazy wolf, bear, buffalo design, was just like a hairy guy with like a slight underbite?
It boggles my mind that so I got this whole thing against like the idea of the Disney princess, because like if you look at Disney princesses, each of them is like a weird backward step. Like the Little Mermaid achieves happiness by cutting off the one thing that makes her special. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's,
her voice is like built up as like a pretty like powerful thing.
Yeah,
and then she has to give it up in order to be happy. And like, the guy apparently falls in love with her without ever speaking to her, which is a little weird.
Which is weird. And then, you know, you have one of the most fucked up things is it's weird how Belle is considered the most feminist one of them, when I think, in fact, she's a heavily problematic character, because here's a story about a woman who falls in love with a beast whose entire thing is vanity. And so, like before the beast got turned into the beast, his whole thing was like vanity and self-serving. So when he, you know, and you only see things for their face value. So when he gets turned into the beast, his subjects get turned into objects.
What a fucking raw deal for them. They didn't do anything.
Rather than calling them by their names beforehand, he calls them by the things they got turned into, further inhibiting his vanity.
Yeah.
And then when when Belle gets there, rather than the objects saying, "Hey, Belle, go. This isn't a fucking, this is a bad place," they force her to fall in love with the beast to break the spell.
Well, I kind of like, it's still like fucked up on their part, but I at least get it. Like, hey, we got to have somebody fall in love with this guy so we can be like people again.
But like, yeah,
we didn't ask for any of this.
It's fucked up, and like they like actually force her to stay, and it becomes a weird Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit to unpack in Disney movies.
There's a weird, you know, and like that's why I'm so pumped for this Mulan movie, because here's a movie where at the end of the movie she doesn't even kiss the guy.
Yeah, she's just like, hey, you got a chance.
You know, like...
I wonder if McDonald's is going to cash in on the Szechuan sauce
again.
Oh,
God, not again.
I hope not. I fucking hope not.
Jesus Christ.
But, like, you know...
If I've ever been embarrassed of my species, like, I am every day, but, like, that one definitely took the cake. Like, if you see...
I like Rick and Morty, but that was too much.
If you see the footage of how people acted at those McDonald's, like, getting up on the counter and shouting wubba lubba dub dub, like, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down, and go back to being 15 and learn how to be an adult again, because you failed this time.
Like, you could have made it at home. Like, it's not even anything new.
There's probably recipes
there are. On home.
Szechuan sauce was not invented by McDonald's for Mulan. It's a sauce. It's out. You can buy it at the store.
I think it's like barbecue and mustard. I think that's all it is, or something like that. Like it's barbecue mustard and thousand.
Maybe like sweet chili or something.
Yeah, or something like that. Like you can make it at home. And like there was, and like people like trampled like the cashiers at like McDonald's and shit for a sauce that.
Yeah, they had like collectible covers or something.
Didn't a guy sell his car?
Yeah, I think so.
One, and like the lady was like posting like, yeah, I got like 2 packets of Szechuan sauce and I got a car for it.
They were selling for like $900 on eBay that
day. This is like on the same level as Fyre Festival. Where
we live in the worst cyberpunk future.
Oh my god, Fyre Festival
was so
that
great.
Tragedy. Oh
you
my
mean that comedy?
God.
Ja Rule
Oh,
implementing communism,
Ja
redistributing the
Rule
wealth.
should have just stayed buried where he was. Instead, he crawled up out of I have one last trick to play. I have one last trump card. Fuck you.
I'm gonna pretend like I didn't orchestrate this whole thing.
It's gonna be great. I'm gonna come back on stage with it's gonna be the beginning of my comeback tour. Fuck you. Yeah, and like they got there and like the brochures were like this big the brochures made it appear to be like sandals, and when they got there,
here's
it was like
here's 5 tents and a sandwich.
An
Fight over the sandwich.
An egg sandwich that was nothing but bread and lettuce.
And like all these rich people who like, oh my god,
Yeah, all these rich people who like ate it up and
just
bought it.
watching them fall apart on social media, like tweeting like, oh my god, they're setting fire to the tents. Does anybody know how to make weapons? It's like, oh my god,
it's so
this
bad.
is so great.
It's such a fucked up
I just
thing.
kicked back for 3 days with popcorn, just watching.
Just
this
watching.
shit. It was amazing.
Watching them get their desserts for falling for
Thank
such a
you, Ja Rule.
such a stupid thing. Can you imagine? Oh my god, I'd be so pissed. And then weren't they trapped there for like 3 days or something like that? Yeah, for like 3 days of nothing but a sandwich.
A sandwich.
A sandwich.
With dirt on
And they
it,
couldn't
fight
get
over.
off the island.
Yes, and they couldn't get
Like
off
the
the island.
airports were overlocked.
Did anybody die?
I don't think anybody died.
Okay,
I think
good.
one person was hospitalized afterwards. I think,
Yeah.
but that yeah.
I'm trying to drink seawater.
Yes, I think yeah. It's so the shit that we fall prey to is amazing.
It's especially if you're rich. Okay, have you guys heard about the trend of raw water?
No, what is that?
I've heard of raw milk,
It's
not water.
No, it's drinking water, like, you know, because you don't want that this processed tap water with all the chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay. You don't want that. You know, I'm a lefty and I listen to NPR, but I also think the exact same way as Alex Jones for some reason. And so like people don't want all that processed
I read
water.
natural news.
They get natural water out of a river and it's brown and like they drink it like you can charge like $27 a gallon of raw water and rich people will buy it and be like, I'm so much healthier than poor
You
people.
could just go out there yourself with a life straw, and you would be.
Oh yeah, no filtering, no life straw. They drink it as is.
I know, but like, there's a life straw. You could like drink
$27
out of
a
a
gallon.
river.
Jesus Christ.
And like, oh, I'm so much healthier than rich people. I'm so much healthier than poor people. You're so
It
much
was
dumber than poor people.
Yeah, you know, like
We didn't go to Fyre Festival and we don't drink raw water.
there was a trend of clothing that came out. I don't know if it was Kanye West line or something else.
Oh, the ones that are just giant T-shirts.
No, there's a trend of like jeans that have dirt on them.
Oh yeah,
And they go for, like, $200 bucks.
because the rips weren't enough.
Because the rips weren't enough, so now you can buy jeans where we just threw dirt on them, and now that's a fashion trend.
So I remember a magazine cologne sample that was diesel fuel. It smelled exactly
It's like diesel fuel.
Oh my god, I remember exactly what you're talking about. You peel off the sticker and then you smell. It's like, oh yeah, that.
You
That
didn't even
smells
have
like
to
pure
peel off
gasoline.
the sticker with this one.
You
You,
know
could
what?
just smell the gasoline
It's
from the
imported
magazine.
from France, Jack. So it makes...
They're rebranding Sex Panther. You remember like he's
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
like you know, I gotta tell you, Brian, that smells like pure gasoline. You know,
It's
69% of the time it works.
69
every time.
69% of the time it works every time. Yeah, it's the shit that rich people fall for.
It's so great.
It's
I just want to scam rich people. That's all I want to do, and then I can retire at like 30.
Just like offer valet service like 50 feet away from the other valet and charge like 5 times the price.
yeah.
Because it's 5 feet closer.
It's so bad. Yeah, it's there are days where like, you know, where like you read stuff like the Fyre Festival,
Yeah.
and you go, you know what, you probably deserve that.
You know what?
I'm not gonna lie.
It does give me hope for the future. Like knowing that, like, you know, rich people like control our lives. They control our legislature. They have their boots on our throats. But like, I feel like we're going to be able to turn it around pretty soon because they're just so dumb.
Teenagers are proponents of communism now.
Would you would have ever thought 5 years ago that Ja Rule would have been a martyr now? Would you would have ever thought that Ja Rule would have been a martyr in today's society? That you would look up and go, Ja Rule, you're kind of a mastermind. I'm not
I
gonna
thought
lie.
it would have been like somebody like Nasser Talib Kweli or
Yeah,
something.
something like that. But no, Ja Rule steps up and goes, I got something for you rich white kids.
dude. It's all about not seeing it coming.
It's, I guess, yeah.
If if Nas or Talib Kweli was doing it, I think they would all just be like,
You'd be like, yeah.
I feel
good
like
for
there's an
them.
agenda here, but if it's Ja
Ja
Rule, they're
Rule.
like, oh, yay!
Yay!
And then they fall for it.
I have such more respect for Ja Rule. you
Yeah.
know? I have such
We
more
all do.
We all do now. The lamest rapper in the 90s becomes one of the people you look fondly back on.
And next, Coolio.
And
will,
next,
Coolio will personally fight Donald Trump.
Yeah. Jesus, Coolio. Oh my gosh, I remember Coolio.
Too short will run for president.
Yeah, and win. Yeah,
And win, yes.
That'll be the day.
Second
yeah.
black president.
Yeah, that's Oh
my God.
I
No, guys, the second black president is going to be Ben Carson.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
The inaugural address will last until February 3rd.
And like it's nothing related to like the presidency at all. And then at the end he's like, so what was I saying? And everybody's like, fuck.
He'll be impeached by the time he finishes his State of the Union address.
How did you get here, Ben Carson? I have no idea.
My fellow Americans, the state of our union is... And then the lights are out. What happened? Oh no. It's dark.
He's actually sticking to the story that he doesn't remember campaigning for president. Like he's actually
Like, oh god, I can't read all of a sudden. I don't
treating
recall.
it like a hangover. He's treating it like he's treating it like a huge party that he went to, and he got up on the table, danced naked, and the next morning he's like, I have no idea that I did that.
There's video, Ben Carson. You can't deny
You
it.
were
man.
at most of the debates. What do you mean?
You were asleep for them, but you were there.
You were asleep for. You just get cuts to Ben Carson sleeping in a hammock.
His hands folded up over his chest, and he's just sleeping, standing up, like.
And Ben Carson's here.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a strange time that we live in, where like The Rock is considering running for president.
Hey, The Rock, I love you, but
Don't.
Hey, The Rock. Hey, rock the Dwayne Johnson. Don't.
Go make that Fast and Furious spinoff and piss off Tyrese more. Like, just
Oh,
go do
God.
that. Did you guys see that? That is like one of the most weirdest stories to ever happen last year. It's insane. So, like, if you don't know the story, Tyrese, he got divorced recently, and his wife is charging him $12,000 in child support. So he needs the Fast and the Furious franchise, right?
Because he's not doing anything
because
else.
he's not doing it. He was doing Transformers,
And he was in,
got
like, the
cut
first
loose.
two.
He was in Baby Boy.
And in Baby Boy. And, you know, he got cut off from Transformers, so Fast and Furious is apparently all he has. So he's pissed off at The Rock because I guess The Rock is such a hot commodity that they want to do a Fast and Furious
He's
spin-off
such a hot
movie.
commodity that he survives so many bad movies, pretty much unscathed.
It's
And they're
weird,
Like, Let's put him
okay.
in something else.
Okay, fuck Tyrese. Let's talk about the fact that The Rock gets paid more than Jennifer Lawrence, a 3-time Oscar nominee actress. Jennifer Lawrence gets paid $25 million. She has headline films that have actually made money, like Hunger Games and X-Men. And The Rock gets paid $125 million.
Literally $100 million more.
Yes,
Holy
literally
shit.
$100 million more. For what? His movies aren't that big of a box office hit. San Andreas barely made its budget
He was
back.
a tooth fairy.
He was the tooth
San
fairy.
Andreas, that movie about an emergency responder who abandons his post
Yes.
and steals the helicopter that they use to save
Yeah,
people.
The Rock is cooler, like, outside of movies that he
Oh yeah,
is in them.
he's like, I think that his career is like coated in Teflon simply because he's such a charismatic dude.
Yes.
Like his presence in a movie makes it like at least 10% better, which every movie he's been in needs because all of them start out really bad.
And he makes literally $100 million more than Jennifer Lawrence.
That's crazy.
Which is insane. There was a story. I don't know if you guys saw this story, but I don't know if you're aware of how in the Ridley Scott movie they removed Spacey.
Yeah. After like the Kevin Spacey fallout, like what was it, like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Ridley Scott went back and reshot all of his scenes. The movie was already edited and like, had its print ready for
And
theaters.
he reshot all of his.
He cut Kevin Spacey out.
Now here's
and replaced him with Christopher Plummer.
Yes,
That's fucking crazy.
Now here's the fucked up thing about it. When that was announced that they were going to do it, Michelle Williams, I think Michelle Williams, who's also in the film, she said that she would work. She said that she would come back and do the reshoots for free because she was thankful that, they were actually, taking a stand and doing this. And so, Ridley Scott was under the impression that everybody came back free. But old Marky Mark took that opportunity to negotiate a $1.5 million salary bonus.
Hey, Mark Wahlberg, remember when you beat up a Vietnamese guy so hard he went blind in one eye?
Yeah.
Remember that? I do.
What a fucked up thing to do.
Yeah, and called him a dirty Vietnamese piece of shit. I remember that, Mark Wahlberg. So fuck you.
What a fucked up thing to just negotiate on the side of a 1.5 million. While
Mark
Michelle
Wahlberg,
Williams.
remember when you said that if you were on the plane you would have prevented 9/11?
Yes, in that Patriot. Yeah, in that movie. Oh,
it wasn't even in a movie. He
really
just said that in an interview.
Really?
Yeah. If I was on the plane, that wouldn't have happened. Yeah,
holy
fuck you, Mark Wahlberg.
Fucking A. Yeah, I think it's time that we sort of realize that Mark Wahlberg is like Mel Gibson, and there's just he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg's canceled.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg. It's weird how we just welcome back Mel Gibson. Isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah,
kind of weird.
I haven't noticed that.
I remember he was in that.
He got nominated for an Oscar for Best Director last year. I think it was
Ridge.
for a movie that was. I'm sorry, I saw Hacksaw Ridge.
I didn't pay attention. I don't like newer movies that much.
That movie is sappy as shit.
Yeah, and the thing is, that actual historical figure is worthy of a really good movie. His story is incredible, and
and then we nominate him for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Did we forget that there's actual proof of him wishing that his wife got raped by a pack of niggas? His word.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
Like he said that the Jews start all the wars.
Yep.
Did we just forget that?
Yeah,
apparently,
and then, this year, what was it? What is it called? Daddy's Home or something?
Yeah,
that movie, also with Mark Wahlberg.
Yes, also with Mark Wahlberg. Yes.
Remember how I didn't even see that movie, but remember how it definitely didn't need a sequel, and then it got one anyway.
Yes,
and Mel Gibson was in it. I remember seeing headlines afterward, saying Daddy's Home 2. Now it's okay to love Mel Gibson. And it's no, it's not.
No, it's never. No,
it's not.
It's not good to part of me is scared that this whole movement thing is not gonna pay off in 20 years when some indie actor hires Kevin Spacey to be in their movie and he puts in a great performance and they're welcome back, Kevin.
Hey, remember how he was a good actor? Yeah, and then he also did fucked up shit, and then we said, you know what, being a good actor isn't worth it, and so now we got to do this shit again 20 years later.
Yeah, I hope that this sticks, and that I hope that this sticks and stands the test of time, and
I hope so. I really hope so.
And isn't this passing trend for another reason why Hollywood can pat themselves on the back?
Also, actors, maybe stop working with Woody Allen,
please. Stop. Okay, there was someone that found his journal or something like that.
Oh.
And he said that he point blankly wrote, he said, I can't help it. I have a fascination with teenage girls.
And this is why Frank Sinatra tried to have him killed.
At that point, you must go, maybe when Woody Allen calls, I should maybe not answer the phone. Maybe at some point you have to look past the idea that Annie Hall's a great movie, sure.
Yeah.
But even then, there's a fucking scene in Annie Hall.
You mean that movie he made before he married his daughter?
There's a scene in Annie Hall where his character goes to jail and his best friend bails him out, and there's a line where his best friend says, damn, man, you just fucked up my chance of having a threesome with two 16-year-olds. What the shit?
Red flags! Get your red flags here. Can't avoid making a huge mistake without a red
Holy
flag.
Shit. And it's if you go back and after this Kevin Spacey thing, I can never watch American Beauty ever again. I will never be able to watch a movie about a guy who's obsessed with a 17-year-old virgin. Yeah.
Even if they got the gender wrong for Kevin Spacey, it's still pretty much the same thing.
Pretty fucked up shit. Yeah.
He should have just gone with Chris Cooper. They would have made a happy, age-appropriate couple together.
It's such a weird. Yeah. It's weird how in retrospect you look back same with Roman Polanski, and you look back at his film Rosemary's Baby, which is all about how men condemn women, and you realize what he did was he raped a 14-year-old.
Yeah, it's weird how you were weird. It's weird how you were so aware of this to tie in these themes to this movie, and yet you still perpetrated
red
this
flag.
shit.
Get your red flags here. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's weird how people have put subtle messages in their work, and then later on, they are also Roman Polanski's
shocker
a scumbag. What?
Yeah. Well. CJ, before we started recording, you mentioned that it was your goal that any podcast you be on be the longest episode of said podcast, and I think
You succeeded.
I think we've just about cleared the mark.
I win.
You did it. You went the distance.
This is actually going to be. This is sad for me to say, but this is the highlight of my week.
Mine too, man. Mine too.
Making this podcast the longest that it's been in history. This is going to be the highlight of my week. And now I'm going to go back and listen to it and hate myself because of the way my voice sounds. So thank you very much.
My voice is absolutely destroyed.
Thank you very much.
We're self-conscious voice buddies together.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think my voice sounds too nasally. That's a common experience. So.
Yeah.
But
Isn't
anyway,
that weird?
Yeah.
It's weird how like you hear yourself talk and then when you go back and listen to it, you go, "Holy shit, that's what I sound like."
Yeah, and I've heard like scientific explanations for it. Where it's like the sound of your voice, like because it's inside, it resonates through your bones, and so you're hearing a different version of it that nobody else hears, and that recording devices definitely don't
pick
hear
up. Yeah.
because like it's just the sound of your voice inside your own body resonating through your bones and your organs and shit. Anyway, we're going back into the conversation as I was trying to end it, but like it was really fun having you on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh well.
Oh well.
You bastards.
Bastards.